All right, a Monday edition of The Zone right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson, Josh Brisco, Dylan Michaels. We had up until 2 o'clock. Nothing to talk about today at all. A lot of stuff to get into. 913-912-4810 is the text line to join us. 913-912-4810 text line to join us today to be a part of the show, part of the conversation. We will talk with Field Yates coming up at noon, our NFL insider from ESPN. We'll hear from Andy Reid in his Monday press conference today. Coming up around 12:30 or so, Mick Schaefer, KSHB 41 sports director. We get learned funniest best in the show today as well. And, of course, it is a day after a Chiefs game, so we will open up the phone lines, 913-381-0810. What's on your mind? What are you thinking? How you feeling? Chiefs lose to the Bills 20-17. The first back-to-back losses for the Chiefs since week 2 and 3 of the 2021 season, which kind of puts it into perspective of what we're talking about right now, in that they were sitting 1-3. They lost back-to-back games in week 2 and week 3 of 2021, and they have not lost back-to-back games since then until now, with these losses to the Green Bay Packers last Sunday night, and, of course, to the Buffalo Bills yesterday afternoon. And both of those games were obviously winnable. Both of those games, Chiefs had opportunity after opportunity after opportunity. Both of those games, the Chiefs fell behind early. Both of those games, the Chiefs shot themselves in the foot. Both of those games, the conversation when it was over is about the referees. One from a legitimate standpoint, and one from a frustration boiling over projection standpoint. That's what I believe last night was. Last night, to me, in this season of frustrations, in this season of we'll figure it out, in the season of we will go and fix it, in the season of we're getting better, in the season of we are practicing, it takes reps and time, and it is coming along, and we are figuring things out, and all it takes is just more time, more practice, more reps. In a season of they may have some issues, but look around at the AFC. There's a lot of injuries going on. The Bills might be out of the playoffs. The Bengals have a quarterback that's doing what Joe Burrow was doing. Clearly a system quarterback, Joe Burrow. That's what I'm getting at here. Yeah, just joking. But in a season where the Ravens and the Dolphins are the best teams in the AFC, and you have already beaten one of them on a neutral site, and the other one, you don't even know what they can do in the playoffs, aren't really the team that scares you. All of that culminating to a week where the Chiefs clearly, with the emotions that were a part of last night's game, clearly put more into this game than some random weeks throughout the season. I know that there are NFL players that say, we approach every single game the exact same way. If I were to look at this game being a bigger game, then that means I would look at another game as being a lesser game, and that's not the professional in me. Every single game is the biggest game because it's the next one, it's the NFL, and it matters. That was not the case last night. They wanted that game very badly. They wanted that game desperately. So did the Bills, obviously. You saw Sean McDermott when the 4th and 15 play fell incomplete, as he lowers his head and puts his hands on his knees and, exhales and thinks of what speech he's going to give to his team. Probably something about the Axis. Probably walking in with the sign behind him that says, "Mission accomplished. We did it. We've climbed to the mountaintop, guys. We won another regular season game against the Chiefs. We have figured it out, guys." I digress. I think the officials were the easy target last night from a season of frustration that the Chiefs are looking around and they're not improving. They are looking around at Week 13 being the same issues that got them in Week 1. They are looking around and looking at things on this team that are fatal flaws that if they lose in the playoffs, we will look and go, yeah, that's been the entire season. And that's where the real frustration comes in, is because you see these things happening week after week, and you would hope a team can figure those out as the season goes along. But reality is, they're not figuring it out as the season goes along. They are not going to come up with some magic elixir that all of a sudden the wide receivers are going to catch the ball thrown to them, that the wide receivers are going to pay attention to the details of the sport, that the team is going to stop committing penalties and stop committing turnovers, that the team is going to have the biggest momentum-changing plays in a game go against them. They're 8-5 on the season. They are still the number 3 seed. I do believe they can still win the AFC. To say that they can't win the AFC is just foolish. Because are they going to lose to the Dolphins? They certainly could, but they've already beaten the Dolphins. You saw that. Could they lose to the Ravens? Yep, they certainly could. But I think they're also good enough to beat the Ravens. This is not a situation where they are the Raiders, and it's, well, you got no chance of winning the AFC. You're not going to win 3 games in a row. Odds are this Chiefs team probably isn't going to win 3 games in a row against playoff caliber teams the way they are playing right now. But they can. They have the ability. They have the overall 1 through 53 talent. Do they have it in the wide receiver room? No. But 1 through 53, they have the talent. That's what creates the frustration, is because the Eagles game, you lose that one and you feel like you could have won it if a player just simply makes a play, catches a ball in their hands. The Detroit Lions game, you could have won it if a player just simply makes a play, catches the ball in their hands. The Buffalo Bills, you could have won that game if a player just simply lines up on sides. If he just simply looks to his right and sees the football behind his front foot. I don't think it erases the play that Travis Kelce had. That's still going to be on highlight reels. I don't care if it's different if that was a play where Travis Kelce went and took a defender and suplexed him, and then there was zero effect on the play whatsoever. If Kadarius Toney lines up 1 yard further back, it's still the exact same play. There isn't a hold that wasn't called or was called that Mahomes was able to get an extra second or something and threw the ball. It's nothing like that to where you don't know what's going to happen if something is changed. We know exactly what would have happened if Kadarius Toney lined up onside. They would have scored. It would have been one of the greatest plays we've seen in Chiefs history, regular season. It would have been phenomenal. It would have been great. It's still going to be on his highlight Hall of Fame reel. It should be, because it was exceptional. It was legendary. It's what that play was. It should have given them the lead, up by 4 with a minute to play, and put the defense out there. And oh boy, we finally get to watch the scenario, the flip side of what we talked about at the bye week, of what would you rather have, the defense out there up 4, or the offense out there down 4? Well, let me tell you, this offense is 0 for 3 since asking that question.
I would argue that that question has been asked and answered a few times over.
You're damn right it's been answered. And moving forward, I would love to know now, if we put out a poll, that exact same question, what the results would be with 4 more games of data. 3 of those being losses coming out of the bye when they were self-scouting and figuring some things out, resetting, taking a deep breath, getting back to the basics, wide receivers thinking less. Maybe he should think more. Maybe Kadarius Toney shouldn't think less. Maybe there's not much less to think. I'm not sure. But thinking more would be, oh, crap, the ball's right there. Maybe I shouldn't be this close. Let's hear from Andy Reid. Andy Reid weighing in on the offsides, talking about a warning. Burp, burp, warning, warning, warning. He's never seen one like that. Here's Andy Reid talking about the offside with Kadarius Toney.
Normally, if it's even close, you get a warning. The head coach gets a warning. I mean, that normally, well, I don't know. I didn't have a protractor out there, but it's a bit embarrassing.
Can you give us just a sense how long you've been in the league, just how rare it is to see that call?
Yeah, I've been in the league a long time, and I haven't had one like that. So not where at least for that kind of a position there that it's not given a heads up to.
I know there is a lot of conversation about, well, you're usually given a warning there, as Andy Reid said. Never seen that in his career. Well, that's because I don't see wide receivers lining up off sides very often. And here's the thing. He wanted a warning. The thing is, for the Chiefs, they actually got a warning before the game. It's called the rule book. Here's your warning. Don't line up off sides. Warning, rule book. If you line up off sides, it's a 5-yard penalty. It states it right there in black and white. That's a warning. Warning, when the ball is in the air, don't grab the player and tackle him. It's going to be pass interference. Unless it's not, but that's the warning. Why would they give a warning, or why do you expect a warning that, hey, you're lined up off sides? I understand if it's a looking over to the side and the official going, slide back that way. Is that your warning? But you don't get a warning on a holding call. You don't get a warning on a roughing the passer. You don't get warnings on those things. Why should you get a warning if a dude's lined up off sides? It's absurd to expect that. And to actually think that that's the official's fault than your own damn player. I mean, how can you expect your players to look in the mirror and make a change and try to fix an issue if you say there isn't an issue? The first part of a problem fixing it is admitting there's a problem. Now, they have admitted there's a problem for 12 weeks.
Most of them have admitted there's a problem. We went off air before MVS's locker room audio came out.
Did it come out?
On Friday.
Oh, yeah.
Friday afternoon. We were off air by the time that most of the players have acknowledged there's a problem.
Right, because MVS on Friday said, I don't even know what you're talking about.
That's right.
But it happens across the league with everybody.
Yeah.
What happens across the league? Oh, I don't know. I don't know what you're talking about. But if I did know what you were talking about, I'd tell you everybody does that. Everybody drops passes like that. Not everybody, as a wide receiver, just simply lines up offsides. Not everybody does that. Like, it's absurd. There has been, in my estimation, 0 missteps for Patrick Mahomes at a podium in his career so far. I have a feeling on Wednesday he'll walk it back. Because I can't get behind, we should just let the players play at the end of the game and not throw a flag, let us decide it, and then sit here in February and go, it was a hold, so throw the penalty.
Right.
It's a hold. Let me tell you, I'll gladly exchange them throwing the flag on Kadarius Toney in the game yesterday and throwing the flag on James Bradbury in the Super Bowl, because both were penalties. I have way more of an issue with last week not calling the pass interference. Mm-hmm. And maybe that's where Patrick Mahomes' frustration comes through, is that he felt like I took the high road and I didn't complain about the officials last week, and I just said, hey, they didn't throw the flag, let us play. They didn't throw the flag, let us play, et cetera, et cetera. And then now they throw the flag and they don't let us play. Well, it's different officials, all of that stuff. The biggest problem is that the flag last week should have been thrown. They should have had 1st and goal at the 5-yard line with 40 seconds to go. 4 chances to score a touchdown, 1 chance to get the 2-point conversion, and we'll see what happens in overtime. Maybe they win that game. Maybe they don't. But they should have had that opportunity. But I think Patrick Mahomes in his mind, I took the high road last week. I said, let us play. And now this week, all right, enough with us talking about the officials. But I'm going to talk about the officials. I think he'll walk it back. I think it's a bad look by the Chiefs overall. This is a Chiefs team that got a couple of calls late in games last year. The last 2 games they played, they got calls late. Both of them were right. They were the right call. It should have been called. It should have been flagged, both of those. And yesterday afternoon, they got it right. I mean, I can't expect an official. We can't complain about officials not getting it right and then complain when they do get it right because it happened to be an awesome play. And also, that official didn't know that play was going to be awesome.
Right, that's true too. That flag went up right away.
Right away. Right away.
Which made it look even more like defensive
Yes.
offsides in a free play, but it went up right away.
And I can understand Mahomes' frustration too, because I echo the frustration of Kadarius Toney's play had literally 0 impact on the play. His lining up offsides.
His alignment.
Last week had a massive impact on the play, not calling the pass interference. And both of them went against the Chiefs. One let him play, massive non-call. One not let him play, we're going to call it by the letter of the law, and had 0 impact on the play. I think it's a projection of this season culminating in an 8-5 record right now, and they are looking to voice a frustration, one common enemy, because it's better than getting up at the podium and going, line up on side and catch the damn ball. I'm tired of this team doing this. I'm tired of the receivers doing that. I'm tired of the penalties. I'm tired of the turnovers, itself included. I'm tired of all of these things and calling out individual players. It's easy to put the frustration towards the referees. My question would be, and we'll continue rolling, 913-381-0810. I know some people have called in, 913-381-0810. Text line, lots of them coming in, 913-912-4810. My question would be, what happens moving forward? Is this a rallying cry for the Chiefs? Is this a fracturing for the Chiefs? Is this a sulking and feeling sorry for themselves and the big bad bully and wolf is out to get them and the refs are taking their lunch money? We'll find out. We'll take a timeout, continue rolling. 913-381-0810. 913-912-4810 is the text line. More Zone right after this. Give us a call. We will get to some phone calls and get to your text as well. 913-381-0810. More Zone next. right, 913-381-810, 913-912-4810. Lots of text coming in. Text says, LOL, Jason, you sound like you've never coached football. Well, I haven't. Tony was literally on the line, which is offsides, but unless that has been brought up in the game when it's that close, it's not a call. Wasn't that close. I understand you're running with the, well, it's obvious offsides thing. Cool, but that's not how the game is called. I've coached football for more than 10 years, and if a wide receiver lines up too far forward, they let you know to watch how they are lining up, because on the field you don't have the cute little blue line that runs across the TV screen. Cool. When is the warning given? In the fourth quarter with a minute to play? Or in the first quarter? See, here's the thing. You usually get a warning when that's going to... He hadn't lined up offsides all game. If that was in the first quarter, maybe they let it go and they go back to him. It's like, hey, dude, you lined up offsides. It's the fourth quarter. There's a minute to go. Why are we acting like Kadarius Toney doesn't know how to line up and blaming it on an official because he didn't get a mother bleeping warning? Line up on side. That's not that difficult. Well, it's never called in the NFL because people don't line up on side. That's why. The wide receivers can look and see. It's never called. Then show me all of the times that a wide receiver has lined up where they are blocking the football and their front foot is actually in front of where the football is, almost a damn half-yard pass where Creed Humphrey is holding the football. That's not called. Well, they don't really call it. Why don't they call it? Because wide receivers are smart enough to know if they're onside or not. Now, if you want to say, well, they don't really call the illegal formation, all of that stuff. Yeah. I get it. I'm with you. There are a lot of video evidence of whether or not, and that's sort of subjective, of where the guy's foot and helmet is and leaning forward or not. But this is not one that's sort of, well, it was kind of close. Like, I don't think it was kind of close. I think he was clearly offsides.
I understand. The one thing that was evident to me, in part because of the reaction from Andy Reid and the fact that on SportsCenter they had the graphic that was the first time an offensive offsides call has ever been made on an Andy Reid coach team. I understand that because you asked earlier, why do refs owe you a warning? Your warning is the rule book. Line up behind the football. Everyone knows how to do this, and that's all objectively true and objectively fair. I understand that if you feel like referees have shirked precedent there, where the precedent through your entire NFL career in a way where your head coach and quarterback have both never seen it adjudicated that way, that when you see it, the flag thrown in that moment, and you never have that discussion with any members of the refereeing crew, I understand that becomes an outlier. Also, the ref was lined up on the ball, looking down the line at the ball, and Kadarius Toney's foot was in the way. That's as obvious as it gets. So the fourth quarter point is something I've been thinking about, but I'm not sure how much it changes things.
Yeah, I don't know. Wonder. Maybe there is a precedent. Maybe in the fourth quarter that late they get warnings too.
Maybe they do. But if Toney's lined up there in the first quarter, is that hey, 19's lining up a little over, bring him back some, we're going to have to get you on it next time. That's how I imagine those conversations typically go. There's no room for that conversation in a minute to go in the fourth quarter. But again, I think that is an escalating factor where it's not how it's been adjudicated in any game Andy Reid's ever coached. But also, and Mahomes mentioned this postgame, and frankly, also, I think Mahomes had a better postgame showing for himself than Andy Reid did. I'm a little surprised at where the focus and ire of NFL media has gone. And maybe it's because Mahomes did talk more. But Mahomes was at least like talking through it. He said, Toney was probably lined up a little bit offsides, and he was lined up offsides. But also, that almost always gives you a warning from the referee, so you know that that's a thing that they're keeping an eye on. And the league's kept a little more of a close eye on that this year, it seems. But ultimately, I understand that being an escalating factor in the frustration, and also, he was lined up offsides.
Yeah, no, I absolutely understand that. Like I said, I understand the frustration by the Chiefs. I get it.
And it's compounding, as you said. It's MVS last week.
I think it's more of a culmination of everything.
Yes, absolutely.
And I think it's a frustration by the inconsistencies that have taken place with the Chiefs, specifically late in games, which I echo. The NFL has an official problem. They have a referee problem. They have a consistency problem.
Yep.
But I want them to get the calls right, no matter what time of the game. I want them to get the calls right. And I can't then get mad and upset if they got the call right, because maybe in the past there might be a warning that goes along with it. Maybe. But why is there an expectation of a warning as opposed to an expectation of your player just simply lining up where he's supposed to line up?
I also think that if you just have identical games but you flip the order of Bills-Packers, I think we're having this conversation about the MVSPI. Like, I think last week would have been a post-game of, yeah, you always get a warning in a situation like that. I was surprised to see the flag come up on offsides, but we can't make a mistake like that.
Good point.
And last night would have been, you tackle our receiver inside the 5, and we can't get anything for that? Like, we're second week in a row, we're talking about refs. That would still be true, but I think the tenor probably follows the second loss, whichever game that would have been.
I agree with that. Texas 19 is a huge net minus to this roster. He should be cut. He's been a large direct contributor to 2 losses and not made any significant contribution to any win. I mean, part of the net minus and the 2 losses is absolutely correct. Cut or not, I'm not sure. There's some cap implications, but I understand the sentiment of what's going on with that. Let's bring in Rev to the conversation. 913-3810810. Phone lines open. 913-3810810. Rev, go right ahead, leading us off. What's on your mind, sir?
Hey, man, I feel pretty good, man. I'm setting the tone today.
Good.
I've never got that happen.
Heck yeah, let's get it rolling.
Hey, man, thank you. I listen to you guys. I learn from you guys. It's good to know that you guys are on this show.
Thank you.
But just want to say, as far as the referees now, the referees cost them to lose that game maybe yesterday. But if you look back last year, well, this year, the only person who's missing on their wide receiver is Juju. So I'm looking at the coaches, that office, Andy Reid. I think he's not soft as a man, but he's soft with players. They're not Matt Nagy. That whole offense it's not together. Patrick Mahomes don't even look the same. I mean, it's just that. And I don't know if they can get any better this year. They might be able to, but I'm going down with the ship. Hey, listen, man. Thank you, and I'll listen off the air.
Rev, I appreciate the kind words. I'm with you, man. I'm going down with the ship as well. The only difference being Juju Smith-Schuster. Is that the huge factor in this? Or is it the guys moving up in different spots and taking different roles? And is this more of a Andy Reid, Matt Nagy, Connor Embry problem?
Or both.
Or is it,
I think it's a little bit of both.
Yeah, absolutely. Could be a lot of different things that go along with this, but we discussed it we discussed it over the summer before all the stuff came out from Washington that, Eric Bieniemy had that red ass, had that, holding players accountable to the fine details of everything. The details are clearly lacking with this offense right now and in the wide receiver room. And I don't think the Chiefs should be a training ground for assistant coaches. I know that Andy Reid has done that in his career, and I understand his thought process with that. And it's helped a lot of different people. But you have so much changeover and a young wide receiver group. The Chiefs should be you get Joe Cullen to help your defensive line.
Yeah.
That's what the Chiefs should be. The Chiefs should not be you've never coached wide receivers before. This is a group that is in flux, and you've got guys that need to take a step forward. You've got Matt Nagy that's moving back into offensive coordinator. You're losing Eric Bieniemy. Guys are moving up to quarterbacks coach and pass game coordinator and all of that stuff. And now you have a rookie in Rashee Rice. You've got an MVS that is what he is, a Justin Watson that is what he is, no Juju Smith-Schuster, no McCole Hardman at the time when that whole thing was going on. Kadarius Toney that needs to take a step forward. Sky Moore that needs to take a step forward.
Kadarius Toney needs to take a step back.
It's a great point.
Yeah.
Kadarius Toney that needs which way to take a step forward or back. You've got all that and you've got a guy who's incredibly green and has never coached wide receivers before, you got a running back coach that never played running back. I think there's something missing on this team. We can blame the wide receivers all we want, and we can look at this and that, but this has been going on all year. Why hasn't there been an improvement? Is it just that they are unable to improve? Or is there coaching that goes along with it? Because if this was anything but a Chiefs team that has been so successful, and Andy Reid that has been so successful, coaching would be a big part of the conversation right now. With the Royals, when guys don't improve, we don't blame the guys.
Right.
We blame the organization for that. And with the Chiefs, when wide receivers aren't improving, we're blaming the wide receivers and dismissing any of the coaching that has been a turnover over the last few years. Go out and pay a little bit more for a great wide receivers coach to come in and help this wide receiver group take that next step. Since you're looking at it and saying, we've got to make sacrifices to this team in certain places because we're paying a lot of money to Patrick Mahomes and a lot of money to Chris Jones and a lot of money to a right tackle and a lot of money to a left guard.
Yep.
We have some high-end contracts, so we have to make cutbacks in different places. The choice was, wide receiver. Maybe that wasn't the choice. Maybe the strategy was Chris Jones is going to sign long-term. They'll sign DeAndre Hopkins. He'll be on this team. Everything will be good. It's not what happened. Maybe that was plan A. But plan B is now what is what it is. But I think it's the success of the organization. I understand that. I totally get that. But with the Royals, guy doesn't improve. It's the organization's fault. With the Chiefs, this wide receiver group is doing the same thing now that they were doing earlier in the season, and it's the players' fault specifically. And there's no accountability for the coaches in putting him in the right places to succeed. And week 13, Kadarius Toney lining up offsides in such a critical moment like that? I mean,
It's the question. It's the question I was asking last week of if you take Andy Reid's name off this, if Andy Reid retired last offseason and Steve Spagnuolo became the head coach and the defensive staff's mostly the same, what are we saying about what happened the year after Andy Reid left? It would be very, very different than how we're talking about the entire offensive side of the ball this season. Not because Andy Reid doesn't deserve benefit of the doubt. I'm saying what happens if you forget he's involved, because every other layer down seems a little worse this year. I think it's also not just missing Juju specifically, but missing a Juju.
Yeah.
Where you have hear me out on this one, veteran wide receiver who knows where to be both before and during the play. And I'm a Kadarius Toney lover of all sorts, apparently. Yeah. I like seeing him on the field in almost all circumstances. I wish he'd start behind the line of scrimmage. But if you have a veteran NFL wide receiver, even on that one shot in the end zone to Rashee Rice, and Romo talked about, he needed to flatten that out some. MVS, on the miss from Mahomes earlier in the game, when MVS should have sat down in the space there, and Mahomes put it, quote-unquote, behind him because MVS kept running toward the safety again. Shocking. Those are all places where a guy who can feel a defense is putting big plays on the board for you that just never happened otherwise.
Yeah.
And also, you'd like to think that MVS wouldn't get worse at that in his second year with the Chiefs on his second contract. You'd like to think that Sky Moore would get a little better at that in year two. Rashee Rice has gotten a little bit better at it, but he was already doing some of that in college, not as much of the zone stuff. But there are a lot of places you can reasonably point fingers, and I think all of your fingers, all 10 of them, maybe get some friends, you're all going to have reasonable places to point.
Yeah. And again, I'll restate the beginning of the show in that I think the refs are the projection of an overall frustration.
Yep.
We'll see if Andy Reid walks it back today, if Patrick Mahomes walks it back on Wednesday, maybe gets back into the same thing of saying, there's typically a warning. There was a lot of frustration last night. The Chiefs really, really wanted that game. And in the heat of the moment, when the emotions are that high, I do offer more of an excuse, more leeway and grace in how and even what some players say in the heat of the moment. Same thing with post-game callers. That you're frustrated, you're mad, you're venting, you sleep on it the next day, you may have a different view. Maybe more of a toned-down view. Maybe more of a bigger picture view. That certainly can happen. And that's why last night, I'm not necessarily overreacting like a lot of the country is about the Chiefs. I think the details need to be focused on more than the officials and how inconsistent they've been. That is acknowledged every week. They are incredibly inconsistent. The NFL has a referee and officiating problem. Totally agree with that. And whether Von Miller was offsides the next play or not, should that have been called? Should it not have been called? Yeah, the consistency if he was offsides. That also doesn't change the fact that Kadarius Toney was also offsides.
I have more of a gripe with the drop catch. Was that
By Toney?
no? Well, no. Which one? The running back for the Bills.
The Murray,
the
Murray
Allen play on the
catch,
sideline.
drop, throw. spot.
Did he
Yeah.
catch that or not? In your opinion, Jason?
No.
Okay, me too. And that's a great play that will go on in history forever for the NFL. So it's kind of like I can understand the fans gripe a little bit too
Absolutely.
on that one,
No.
not the offsides.
Yeah, no doubt. I'm with you. The Miles Sanders caught the ball, took 2 steps, turned, had complete control of the ball, never lost possession, got hit, ball comes out, it's a scoop and score. That's incomplete. Murray has the ball. As he's starting to tuck it away, he completely loses it and falls it. Well, he barely got a 3rd foot down. But he never, ever tucked the ball away. Whatever the call on the field was, is what they were going to go with. The issue you run into with all turnovers are reviewed is that, well, let's just go with the call on the field for being a fumble. Like Patrick Mahomes, what was called a fumble originally and then replay review changed it to an incomplete pass. It was a clear and obvious incomplete pass. Clear and obvious his arm was going forward. But we're going to let it play out. The problem with that is when you let it play out and you go with the, quote, call on the field, you're screwing the offense. The defense is getting the benefit of the doubt because, well, if they would have called that this, then you would have stayed with the call. But they didn't call it that because then another team would have to challenge that. And they've taken the easy way out and then taken the easy way out. It's also the easy way out just to say call stands. I would love to know how many reviews the call has been confirmed.
Yeah.
Even when it's an obvious play. The Patrick Mahomes incomplete pass that we're just talking about. The play stands as called. No, the play is confirmed. His arm is going forward. It was obvious. It was a pass. He tried to pull it back at the tuck rule. It's an incomplete pass. Play stands as called. No, it doesn't. It's confirmed. Because play stands is whatever the call on the field is what you're going to go with. Or I guess it wasn't play stands as called. It was play that that it was overruled. But you get the point. That wasn't the one that play stands. I can't remember which one it was. That it was pretty obvious that it was like, come on, man, play stands is called. This is let's move this forward, okay? That one was reversed, so it can't play stands because that was a fumble. You get the point. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back and get into, a lot of texts that are coming in.
Your iPad is smoking, actually.
Yeah, there's a lot of texts, and it's tough because I want to get to a lot of them because there are a lot of really good points, agreeing and disagreeing. So I want to bring in, counterpoints and things like that. There's a lot of that, and certainly your phone calls as well. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. We'll continue rolling more zone next. All right, 913-912-4810. Text says, facts are, Chiefs losses have all been by one-score games to potential playoff teams. Chiefs are a playoff team. Chiefs could win the Super Bowl, but their margin for error is razor thin and smaller than ever. It also appears that they are making more errors than ever before. Another text says, mentioning three media sacred cows here. Rice's fumble was a game changer more than any drop. It was huge. We'll get into that. A lot of stuff to get into from that game that, unfortunately, the main conversation has been what we've talked about this hour. Continues, says, Mahomes had a 79 passer rating for the second straight game, finished the game with 3 incompletions. And can Veach manage the cap now that he has a quarterback taking a very big chunk of it? Yeah. All questions moving forward that the Chiefs have to figure out if they want to go far in the playoffs.
The Zone is presented by Guaranteed Foods, delivering all natural food to Midwestern families since 1958. Enjoy healthier food, more free time, free delivery, and better value. Go to GuaranteedFoods.com.
913-381-810 is the phone number. 913-912-4810 text line. Text says, we can tell Jason never played football. Every wide receiver at every level gets on the line, gets an on-the-line signal or off-the-line signal from the line judge on the sideline every single play, all caps. They're required to have 7 on the line every play. This communication with the line judge and the wide receiver about being on the line or off the line happens every single play, all caps. I clearly played football, buddy. All right. I averaged 11 yards per reception in high school. Okay. A first down every single catch. Literally every catch I made in high school was a first down for at least and at most 11 yards.
Jason knows, people, that you have to at least coach or play high school football to talk about high school football. So
Yeah.
we know. We know the rules.
I mean,
Jason, obviously,
come on.
standout wide receiver.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, stand out there on the sidelines.
That's right. And pat everybody on the back. Stand out on that one play.
Brian Baldinger, I don't know if he did anything with football, but he has a video on Twitter of what appears to be Kadarius Toney getting right up to the line, looking right at the football, and then running the play. So
Also,
no one's arguing that Kadarius Toney shouldn't have tried to get a signal from the ref.
Yeah. Right, but also there are plenty of times where it just becomes habit. You get there, look over to the official, and then you go about your business. You know, if he looks over, the official points at him, and then if the official starts to make a motion and Kadarius Toney looks away, what's the official supposed to do? Then not throw the flag? I mean, there's a communication that takes place. I promise you, there hasn't been every single play to where a guy lines up and looks over to the official to make sure he's on the line of scrimmage. These are NFL players. They don't need to be coached by the official every single play. This is not high school football. It's not junior high. This is the NFL, which means not for long if you keep dropping passes and can't line up right.
Keyboard warrior Mitchell Schwartz, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, tweeted, Baldy's got the coach's film on if Toney checked in with the ref. Doesn't seem like it, although you don't see them break the huddle, so that's an important little parenthetical.
Right, yeah.
But, he says, I think if he did turn to the ref, he simply pointed and never got confirmation, which is as good as not even turning. Yeah. Rice doing it right at the top. You can watch Rashee Rice do it, hand up, eyes on the ref, hand back down, back to his alignment.
Mm-hmm. All right, 913-381-810. Tracy next up on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Tracy, go right ahead. What's on your mind?
Hey, thank you for taking my call.
Absolutely.
Hey, I very seldom agree with you or Seren.
Nice.
Ercho, my friend, and Mr. Brisco would probably tell you that, but I did agree with your opening monologue today. It was spot on, because I thought I was going to have to hear you sugarcoat Mahomes all day, and you did not do that, so kudos to you. My second point is, has anybody said anything about Mahomes has just as many interceptions as Josh Allen? I found that out this morning because they were talking about it on the NFL Network. His passer rating is terrible. It was 78 or 79 for the second straight game, they said this morning. And then my last point is, does anybody remember D Ford? I know he played defense, and he didn't get no warning. He cost us a trip going to the Super Bowl. He lined up in the neutral zone, and I know that's defense versus offense, but basically it was still the same play. He lined up in the neutral zone, and he did not get a warning, if I remember. And then my last point is, last year, Mahomes, Andy Reid was not arguing when they got that pass interference call with 2 minutes to go in the Super Bowl. The defensive back for Philadelphia said that he did hold. He told the truth. He said that both teams were holding all game, and the refs decided that game in the last 2 minutes, and it benefited the Chiefs. So Mahomes is not complaining about that, and he was able to win another Super Bowl. So I just hope that Andy Reid can keep the locker room together, because what I seen last night was a bunch of spoiled millionaires complaining and whining. That's what I saw last night. And be careful what you wish for, because most of your listeners and Turin's listeners for the last couple of years was ready to run Eric Bieniemy away. They miss his ass now. Thank you, Jason, for being honest this morning, and I really appreciate it.
Tracy,
Thank you so much.
I appreciate the phone call, man. 913-381-0810. I knew I'd get Tracy to agree with me one day. I knew it.
This is incredible.
Bucket list.
Bring the champagne.
Mark that off. Thank you, Tracy. No, I mean, we talked about
Tracy,
it.
don't let it happen again.
Yeah. All right. Now I've got to change everything. Bleep the refs. Let's get their names. I want to know, do they own a business? I want to call. I want to Google review their. No, I'm joking. No, Mahomes is not playing well. I've talked about that before. That he's just, whether that is the receivers and a lack of trust, which I think is part of it. Is it staring down Travis Kelce because he trusts him? And I've mentioned last week that, is there, Travis runs some of these routes that are the option routes and ad-libbing. Is Mahomes staring at Kelce because he's waiting for Kelce to make the decision as where he's going to go, and then at that point it's too late? I don't know. Maybe he is, maybe he isn't. Those are things that they have to answer. But his quarterback rating would benefit from guys catching the ball. It would benefit from an interception that was a pick six that was right in the hands of Kadarius Toney. It would benefit from a number of different things, and also him playing a little bit better, certainly. And I think he'd be the first one to tell you that, and he's talked about that too. He is not a perfect player, and he's been phenomenal, and I will choose him 100 times out of 100 to be the quarterback of the Kansas City Chiefs. But there's a lot of blame to go around on this team. And it's not all just simply the wide receivers are the whole reason that this team is struggling. In the last three losses for this team, last three games for this team, they fell behind 14-0 to Las Vegas, 14-3 to Green Bay, and 14-0 to Buffalo. They have dug themselves in holes. They were able to overcome against a non-playoff team in the Raiders. They were not able to overcome against Green Bay, who plays tonight, and we'll see if they're playing the Giants, so they should continue their winning streak. And against Buffalo, that was playing with, everything on the line, that they said this is a playoff game for them. And I think the Chiefs approached it, maybe not as a playoff game, but I think the Chiefs did approach it to where they felt like this one meant a little bit more. 913-381-0810. Northland Joe next up on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Joe, go right ahead. What's on your mind, sir?
Hey, thanks for taking my call.
Absolutely.
Well, a couple of different directions on this. First of all, I think you hit it right about the consistency of officiating. It's what I call the any given Sunday, because it seems to be that a different crew, a different game, a different two teams playing might have different results on what the officials call or don't call. And I don't really know why, unless it's maybe a perception problem from the head of the NFL, Mr. Goodell, who doesn't see this as a problem. He thinks things are going fine, and as long as things are going fine and they're making billions of dollars a year, he's not seeing any reason to change anything in the officiating. The second thing I really would like to, and I hate to call for anyone's job, but do you think, I know Andy Reid likes to be loyal to players and loyal to coaches, but is there any way that Nagy's job is kind of on the line right now in the hot seat, because he's looking at this offense not performing like he expects, and he may say we're going to give it another year and see what happens, which I think would be a mistake. But do you think Andy Reid might pull the trigger in the off season and look at a new offensive coordinator?
Joe, I appreciate the phone call, man. I'll address that in reverse order. No. I don't think Matt Nagy's job is on the line or on the hot seat or anything like that. Andy Reid really likes Matt Nagy. And again, one of the parts that we talked about with Eric Bieniemy in the years past is when people wanted to blame Eric Bieniemy for the offense struggling, it's, Andy Reid's calling the plays. This is an Andy Reid. You can't say, Eric Bieniemy isn't getting a job because he's not calling the plays, and then when the offense struggles, say, well, Eric Bieniemy is the issue because he's the offensive coordinator. No, Matt Nagy's the offensive coordinator. He's relaying the plays from Andy Reid to the headset of Patrick Mahomes. The question would be the specific parts of the offense that Matt Nagy may coach or make adjustments with that Andy Reid and he get together and talk about and game plan with. that may be different than what Eric Bieniemy was doing, or finer points of coaching or teaching or focus that may be there from an Eric Bieniemy or Matt Nagy, and personality-wise and relationship-wise could be different from, Eric Bieniemy and Matt Nagy. But the job is not on the line. And next year, Matt Nagy will be the offensive coordinator, unless he's got a job somewhere else. So he'll be the offensive coordinator of this Kansas City Chiefs team. And yes, the consistency with the refs is absolutely the issue. That's the problem. And that's where it's understandable as to why there's frustration that is out there by the Chiefs. I get it. And I think this is a lot of the Chiefs players, it's more of a projecting frustration of the culmination of the season at one thing that's easier to project and blame that than it is to internalize, which they have been doing week after week after week after week after week. And this reached a boiling over moment that they let the emotions and the moment get the best of them, I think. And Patrick Mahomes, too. And Patrick Mahomes, I have never seen him that animated before, except for when he didn't want to get the X-ray.
Yep.
That's the competitive spirit. And I think that was the boiling over period for Mahomes as well. And shocking that, on the sideline, his players then were literally holding him back because they've been doing that most of the year. And then we got full evidence of what it looks like in real time of them holding him back.
I think it's also telling that I'm pretty sure they needed linemen to be ones to actually catch him. So that's frustrating.
He slipped right through the hands of MVS.
He did. No,
Tony.
MVS was not where he was supposed to be. He was he was further down the sideline.
Kadarius Toney was like a yard away from being there to help out Patrick Mahomes.
He wanted to.
Gallows humor. Humor.
I agree that there's virtually no chance they fire Matt Nagy after this year. I think that'd be wild. Not a bad thing. It would just be so out of character for Andy Reid. I do wonder if we might get a MayChiefs.com little publishing of some of just coaching staff changes, and maybe it is a specific I don't. Making Connor Embry the boogeyman of this offense's entire problem is just as silly as making any individual boogeyman.
Agreed.
So we'll find out. I don't want to predict either way because I don't know. We will find out what the Chiefs think about their coaching staff this offseason if, for an example, Connor Embry is going to be exclusively a pass game analyst and quality control coach. He could go to that role, and they could make Todd Pinkston, the former NFL wide receiver, who's currently the running backs coach, he could be the wide receivers coach. They make changes like that all the time on both sides of the ball where guys do take a job, someone else moves around a little bit. So I bet we see some form of shuffling, but probably not outright dismissals would be my guess.
913-381-0810, Blast from the Past. Wolverine Willie is next up on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Willie, go right ahead. What's on your mind, sir?
Gentlemen, there was once a great prophet he spoke long ago, and Judge Smalls had this to say. It's easy to grin when your ship has come in and you got the stock market beat, but the man who's worthwhile is the man who can smile when his pants are too tight in his seat. And Patrick Mahomes' panties are in a bunch. It's not the sideline behavior. It's the after the game behavior with the reporting crew that shocked me. Learn from Tom Brady, my man. Wear your tie. Bring it down a notch. Remain composed and lead. And a good craftsman never blames his tool. You don't blame the referee. That's not on the referee. That's on your Tony, my friend. But for those of us old enough to remember, we have seen this before, and it's happening right before our eyes. This team is being Jessica Simpson by Taylor Swift. Yeah, boys, Jessica Simpson by Taylor Swift. The only difference is Taylor Swift is much more, as the kids would say, mid than Jessica Simpson in her prime. I am sorry. The last thing you want to see is Taylor Swift and her Swifties up there with Patrick Mahomes' wife, which, by the way, if you're Patrick Mahomes' wife, why do you want to be pictured with Taylor Swift? That's like inviting the hot girl to your wedding party. No, you put them in ugly dresses and you get your ugliest friends so you stand out. Stay off of social media. Stay off of TikTok. We don't want to hear from Patrick Mahomes' wife after the game or his brother, and we don't want to see any more Taylor Swift. That's all I got, gentlemen. Thanks for taking the call.
Willie, I appreciate the phone call.
I think she should be the offensive coordinator.
Not sure how Taylor Swift has anything to do with this. I think it's certainly Brittany Mahomes has nothing to do with this. On a serious note, people acting like Taylor Swift is the issue with this team. Did this team have drop passes in Detroit against the Lions?
Yeah, they did.
Did this team score 17 points and turn the ball over 3 times against the Jags in week 2?
We Google it. Yeah, it looks like it.
Like, this team has had the same problem all year, but somehow it's Taylor Swift's issue that she's there. I'll promise you this. Kadarius Toney didn't line up off sides because he was looking up at the suites to see if Taylor Swift was watching the game or not.
Be funnier if he was.
Like, explain to me, Taylor Swift is a distraction to this team. How? How is she a distraction to the team? The biggest distraction is that the team can't get out of their own way with the wide receivers. It's a fun outside of the team conversation and national conversation to have because it gets tiring to say the wide receivers are letting this team down time and time again. It gets tiring to say the defense is good enough and held yet another team that's pretty good offensively to less than 21 points. It is just such an easy cop-out and lazy narrative to say that this team is struggling with the finer points because Taylor Swift is in attendance. Taylor Swift is in attendance against the Bears. If there was going to be a distracting game, it would have been that one because everybody kept looking up at the suite to see that she was there. Well, Travis Kelce, he's the one that's distracted. He made one of the greatest plays we've ever seen on the field in Chiefs history in the game last night. And because of his wide receiver lining up off sides, who he ended up throwing the football to, it got taken off the board, and his stat line, as I'm pulling it up here, of Travis Kelce, of 6 receptions, 83 yards, would have been 7 for 107, if that counted. And Taylor Swift is the issue?
Can't believe Jessica Simpson botched that field goal hold.
And it's not Willie. I get it. He's doing his thing. But I've seen way too much of this. I saw it last night. Mahomes is frustrated that his wide receivers aren't good enough and his tight end is distracted by Taylor Swift. Apparently, Travis Kelce should always be single.
I wish defenses were distracted by Taylor Swift. It seems like all they can know. Maybe the problem is that defenses are so aware of Travis Kelce now.
Travis Kelce is distracted because he has a relationship with Taylor Swift? Then that would be anybody that has a relationship would be distracted. Patrick Mahomes is distracted because he's got 2 kids now.
I've seen that one too.
Yeah, I have as well. But and again, it's not just Willie. It's
every single time we have a segment that goes too long, I'm going to blame your kids.
He's distracted because he's got
Dylan's
2 kids now.
Dylan's like, we got to take a break. Like, Dylan, he's a father of 2. I just don't know what to tell you.
What are you going to do, man? He's got 2 kids. You know what? He's in a relationship. I mean, this is, I don't know. I think it's just people looking for something to blame.
Yeah, people are, that is exactly it. It's from the team to the fans. Everyone is looking for something to blame.
Yeah,
because there's no good answers left.
Yes, the team is looking for somebody to blame. They blame the refs, and the general public or fans are looking for something to point to, and it's Taylor Swift. And the general public that was sick and tired of seeing Taylor Swift and blah, 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 and we've talked about that, are now enjoying it and saying, well, yeah, the Chiefs are losing because of that. So you guys were, everybody loved it. Everybody loved it when all was great. And now they're losing because of that. Let's jump on board and say that's the narrative. Same thing as the narrative is the Chiefs always get the calls late in the game.
Do they not?
As far as I know, they've gotten every single call in the history of the league. Let's bring in Robert to the conversation. Robert, go right ahead. What's on your mind, sir? You got the floor.
Yeah, NFL analysts often say that offensive holding could be called on every play. Conversely, illegal contact by defensive backs 5 yards down the field could pretty much be called on every play. The analysts also say the reason they aren't called on every play is the impact that they have on that play. In other words, if the action does not result with an advantage being gained by the offending player that directly impacts the results of the play, it's most often not called. Now, Tony was offsides, but he gained no advantage by having his foot on the line of scrimmage. I think the main rub that everybody's having is that they're chapped about, whether they realize it or not, and you've kind of touched on this also, is the refs swallowed their whistle in Green Bay on a penalty that was directly impacting the game.
Incredibly egregious.
It was. It gave the advantage to the defensive player, and they didn't call it.
Yep.
And in this game, he was 6 inches this way or that way, had no real impact on the result of the play. He, was 6 inches further down the field, still would have caught. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
D Ford lining off upsides. But that does impact it because he's got kind of a little bit of a head start, a better angle to get to the quarterback. So stuff like that absolutely should be called. So if you want to use the same reasoning on why they swallowed the whistle, not you specifically, but some of the pundits saying, hey, we swallowed the whistle because you don't want to influence the game with, last minute or so. The Chiefs are just really chapped that they swallowed the whistle against MVS on something that was absolutely impactful, but called it on this one, which really didn't have any bearing on how the play came out. I wish Mahomes hadn't said anything in the conference. I wish Reed hadn't said anything in the conference because now they just look like whiny brats, and it's just too bad because nobody cares about the Chiefs not catching a break after they've had this incredible run that they have the past 5 years.
Yeah, absolutely. Robert, I appreciate the phone call, man. And as I think it's right about the frustrations from last week, the no call that had a huge, significant impact on the play, and then the call this week that has no impact on the play. And that's one of the things that Mahomes talked about and said that, it didn't affect the play at all. But the official doesn't know that that's going to be an amazing play when he throws the flag. We know for a fact the Chiefs would get the ball first and goal at the 5-yard line when the referees should have thrown the flag. They are in a much more advantageous position to see an impact on the play than the side judge because of somebody being offsides before the play happens. Same thing as if a defensive player lines up offsides, as we've seen, unfortunately. The referee doesn't know that there's going to be an interception that would end the game. And go, oh, man, we just, that team would have won if I didn't throw the flag. Chiefs may have won if they didn't throw the flag. Chiefs may have won if MVS catches the football against the Eagles. Chiefs may have won if they threw the penalty against MVS against the Packers. They may have won those games. They did not. And that's where it gets into the how good are they, the frustrations that are certainly there and understandably that are there with a lot of people because this team has hosted the AFC Championship game 5 years in a row. You want to win the Super Bowl each and every time you go out there. And this team absolutely has a chance to win the Super Bowl this year if they don't keep doing this. The question is, now that they won't get the bye, got a 10% chance, I think it is, to get the bye, can they not do this 4 games in a row? That is asking a lot, especially with 2 of those being on the road. Can they clean some things up and be better than what they've been? Because if we just simply ignore the official part of it at the end, the first drive of the game, they had 2nd and 5 from the Buffalo 30-yard line, and it was an interception. It's unfortunate. Ball tapped in the air. But when you get a chance to throw the ball to Clyde Edwards-Helaire, you just have to. It's a joke. But still an interception. Drive number 3, 3rd and 7, MVS false start. Now 3rd and 12. They were down 7-0, they punt. Drive number 4, they're down 14-0. The ball's at the Buffalo 39-yard line, 2nd down and 12. Kadarius Toney just drops a ball right in his hands. He would have picked up at least 9 yards. Would have been 3rd and 3. By the way, at the Buffalo 30-yard line. They ended up punting on that drive. Could have been 3 points there. Now the whole thing is different. I'm joking. And then in the second half, drive number 7.
Just sorry, I want to skip over that. The 3rd and 12, Mahomes had time, went to MVS. That's the one where he continues toward the safety instead of sitting down there. So I just don't want to. I don't want to have any risk of glossing over another miscue and mistake.
Yes, and then
in the same position group.
And then the camera close up on Mahomes as he looks over the sideline and said, "What are we doing?"
Yeah.
And I think the next thing he said is something about going. Like, where are you going? I'm not.
That was not about Carl Cheffers.
I rewound it probably 10, 15 times trying to figure out what the second part that he said. The first part is, what are we doing?
What are we doing?
And the second part, I'm pretty positive there was going was in there.
I thought the same thing.
But he could have been like, where am I? Could have been throwing. Like, where am I throwing? Mad at himself. Or what are we doing? What am I? It was clearly a miscommunication. And Tony Romo pointed out and said MVS was the one on that one. The Sky Moore incomplete pass. Tony Romo pointed out that Sky Moore was supposed to flatten that. Maybe he was.
At least 3. Romo called out at least 3 of those. At least one for MVS, one for Sky, and one for Rice. Minimum.
Man. Maybe this coaching is an issue. The 7th drive of the game, when you get into the second half, down 17-14, Rashee Rice fumbles. It would have been 3rd and 2 at almost the 50-yard line. Down by 3. Drive number 8, they get down to the red zone. They've got, 1st and 10 from the 12-yard line. And they pick up 2 yards the next 3 plays. They kick a field goal to tie it up. Then it's tied. They've got the ball in the 4th quarter, and they go 3 and out. And then, of course, the Tony offsides. The last 4 drives of the game, they got to midfield, the Bills' 10-yard line, the Bills' 49-yard line, and their own 34, and they got a total of 3 points out of their final 4 drives. Talk about the officials all you want, man, but this is a team that scored on 3 drives. Do you know how difficult it is to only have 3 scoring drives when your kicker has not missed a kick all year and bangs them from 60?
That's a great point.
You know how difficult it is in a game to have 3 drives in which you get any points when the guy is 54 of 54 or something like that.
And they had 10 drives. This isn't one of those weird circumstances where the first half took an hour.
It is not easy. Especially when one of those drives starts at midfield after a Richie James punt return, which I love punt returns.
You've always loved punt returns.
Always loved punt returns.
I did think of you in that moment. I thought, how are we going to do this? This is going to be fun. I'm excited. You play both sides. It's all fun. We could have had so much fun. We're talking about punt returns today.
On. We have punt returns in the 2 biggest games last year with Sky Moore and Kadarius Toney, and punt return in this one to beat Buffalo and keep pace, or at least only 1 game back.
We could be talking about how the Chiefs' defense, without Drew Tranquil, at minimum their best coverage linebacker, how good this defense was without their best coverage linebacker, giving up. I think it was I went and did the math a second ago of how long it had been, what kind of where this fits in recent Bills offensive outputs or whatever. But you hold the Bills to 20 points without your best coverage linebacker in a game where all they can do offensively is pick on your safeties and linebackers. And you don't have Brian Cook. He's probably not coming back. Not officially yet, but on IR now. We could have had so much more to say about the defense again.
I mean, but it's also the defense after the rough start, because the first 3 drives against the Packers, they gave up 14 points. First 3 drives against the Raiders, they gave up 14 points. First 3 drives against the Bills, they gave up 14 points. And then they settled down in 2 of the 3.
Yep.
But one of them they didn't. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. More Zone next. 913-810-810. There are plenty of other plays that took place in this game besides just the Kadarius Toney offsides. I mean, again, the Chiefs were tied at 17, and they went 3 and out.
Andy Reid wouldn't comment on any of that after the game, of
yeah,
course.
No kidding.
But
8 minutes to go in the fourth quarter. Chiefs got the ball at the 31-yard line, and they gained 3 yards. Incomplete after the Clyde Edwards-Helaire 3-yard run, and they ended up punting. And then the Bills got the ball back with 7 minutes to play and took that thing down to under 2 minutes when they kicked the field goal. And it's unfortunate. It was a 3rd and 6 at their own 35-yard line for Buffalo, and it was a brilliant throw by Josh Allen to Hardy, and McDuffie was right there. And that 25-yard gain that McDuffie was about 3 inches away from knocking the ball away. It happens. They made a play. It sucks. Nick Bolton also had a sack on 3rd down and 10 that would have put the Bills back at the 35-yard line. It's tough because Josh Allen is really good at not getting sacked, as we saw in the game, even though he got sacked 3 times. But Bolton missed. And instead of the 35-yard line, they kick a field goal from the 21, and Bass didn't exactly hit it well. Now, you add 15 yards to that 39-yard attempt, and all of a sudden it's a 54-yarder. Does that ball go through the uprights or not? I don't know. But those are small little plays across the game that, we have talked about, multiple times, and I've discussed it with, the last couple of games. We talked about it last week and the expected points added and the win probability. And in the last 4 losses for the Chiefs, not going back to Detroit in game number 1, but just this stretch of football right now, as they are 2-4 in these games, in those 4 losses, if you look at just the top 4 plays, because against Buffalo, 3 of the top 4 plays went against the Chiefs again. That's what we talked about with Green Bay. That's what we talked about with Philadelphia. That 3 of the top 4 plays went against the Chiefs. The other team made the play or the Chiefs shot themselves in the foot. And if you look at those 4 games and those 4 losses, out of those 16 plays, 13 of the 16 went in favor of the opposition. Against Denver, in the top 4 plays alone, there were 18 points, expected points added for the Broncos, and 37.5% win probability. Just in the top 4 plays. Against the Eagles, the top 4 plays, 10 points added, and 43.3% win probability. Against Green Bay, the top 4 plays, 7 points added, 21.3 win probability. And last night, top 4 plays, Buffalo, 10.4 expected points added and 30.1% win probability in the top 4 plays last night. You got 10.5 points. In fact, the adjusted score of the advanced analytics had the Chiefs winning 23-20. But that's not what happened.
No.
They don't play the game with computers. Right. They play the game on the field. And the Chiefs didn't make enough plays to get it done. And they allowed James Cook to run free a couple times. I mean, didn't guard him twice. Coverage breakdowns. And yes, if you say that the Chiefs are going to give up a total of 20 points in this game to the Bills, you know it's going to be a dogfight. But man, against that defense without Matt Milano and without Tre'Davious White and Von Miller out there being a shell of himself, I'd like to see the Chiefs get more than 17 points.
That's right.
Against that team. But it didn't happen. And I think Isaiah Pacheco makes a difference. Clyde Edwards-Helaire was fine.
Yeah, Pacheco, it feels like he makes a difference, but there was not a point when I went, Pacheco finishes that run, and Clyde didn't, know?
My point being, Edwards-Helaire is a fine backup running back. Mm-hmm. I don't think there was any run in the game where he got tackled with the offensive lineman behind him, if that makes sense, except for catches. Where when he was running and got tackled, the offensive linemen were still in front of him. He was getting what was blocked, and there was some damn fine blocking going on in the run. Isaiah Pacheco is tackled plenty of times with the running back, with the offensive line behind him, that he has passed the offensive line now, and he's picking up extra yards. Edwards-Helaire just isn't that guy. And so when you don't have Pacheco in the game, I thought he was fine. He was fine in the game, okay? But Pacheco was a difference maker, and we can't talk about the difference between he and Edwards-Helaire and then act like, well, their offense wouldn't have been any different if that guy was out there. But they have to find players to make plays, and Rashee Rice is really good and is coming on and is becoming more of a go-to guy to Patrick Mahomes, but he has got to stop fumbling the football. And I know it's one, but it is now 3 games in a row in which the ball has bounced out of his hands at the end of a play. It's just that the previous 2, he was down by contact. Mm-hmm. Barely. There was a butt cheek down. There was barely a knee down at the goal line, like at the 1-yard line or whatever it was when Pacheco was, and that might have been even last week, that it was when Pacheco walked in for the touchdown and they also had somebody offsides, so it might have been the Packers last week too. But Rashee Rice got tackled at like the 1-yard line and the ball pops out. He was down by contact, but the ball still came out. And then at the end of the game, we know what happened. And then Pacheco, with the 15-yard penalty being dumb, the ball popped out at the end. This one, going to the ground, the ball pops out. He's got to be he's a rookie, but he's got to be stronger with that. You can't have it just being like, well, let's go to the review to see if his knee is down. Be strong with the football, man.
But also, then I was doing the post-game show and watched A.J. Brown have the ball taken from him by Stephon Gilmore.
Agreed.
It being a little bit of a habit forming for Rashee Rice is the red flag of it. Like, hey, man, the close calls are a good thing to add to the picture.
Yeah, it's 3 times
Neither
in the last
one of
2
us
games.
are saying not to throw the ball to Rashee Rice anymore.
No.
Just to be clear.
No, but it's 3 times in the last 2 games in which he's been tackled and the ball is bouncing away from him when the play is over. One of them cost him. The other 2, he was down by contact. Let's bring in Chuck next up on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Go right ahead, Chuck. What's on your mind?
Hey, let me ask a question real quick, just get a brief answer from you, and then I want to tell you about a poison pill that's delivered to the Chiefs' schedule nobody talked about. Does it make a difference when your opponent had one extra day of rest than you did? Does it make a difference?
It can. We went through the schedule, I think it was last year, the year before, where the Chiefs had a lot of extra days of rest, and there were a couple of games where they ended up losing when they had that extra day of rest. So I think it can make a difference, and also there are times when it doesn't make a difference. I don't think there may be a study out there that it's shown, but
there was a little bit last year that some of the smaller breaks I don't think had as big of an impact, but the Bills were coming off a bye.
Bills are coming off a bye.
So, I mean, that's a different story.
Yeah, absolutely.
No, I'm with you. This is a huge poison pill. I'm not talking about one game, one bye week. The league is sick of talking about the Arrowhead Invitational. The AFC is sick of the Chiefs, and I don't think the league wants another dominance like Tom Brady did with the Super Bowl and his performances over a couple of decades almost. And I'll tell you, they did it with the schedule. They gave the Chiefs, how many games would you say a team should face where they're short on rest compared to their opponent in a schedule? Would it be 1 game, 2 games? That would be normal. That would happen. What about 3 or 4? Would that be unreasonable for the Chiefs to have 3 or 4 games where they're short rest of their opponent who got more? Well, how about 6? How about 6 at the end of the season, 6 weeks in a row? And it started coming off that Eagles game we played on Monday night. The Raiders got 1 extra day of rest. The Packers game, the Packers came off a Thursday night. They had 10 days rest. Chiefs had 7. Then they played the Bills, who have 14 days rest. Chiefs have 7. This weekend they play the Pats, who have 10 days rest. Chiefs got 7. Then they play the Raiders, who get 11 days rest. The Chiefs get 8. Then they play the Bengals, who get 8 days rest.
Yeah.
And the Chiefs get 6. That's a poison pill.
Yeah.
And no, let me rant, because I've earned it. I had season tickets for 22 years. That's a poison pill, and the league doesn't want it. And then you put Mahomes on a commercial to start the season, joking about the scripted league and how, that really can't ever happen. And you got the poster child for the team saying it can never happen. And we start the season with a Detroit game, and you have an officiating crew that is specifically going to take Jawan Taylor apart.
Well, that wasn't in the Detroit game, though. That was
no, that was in the Detroit game.
The complaints were in the Detroit game.
Collinsworth was
Collinsworth was complaining
right.
in the Detroit game.
It
It was
got
the Jags game that got.
Yeah,
but
my error, my bad.
you're fine.
It gets called out in the Detroit game. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
On national television, it gets called out, and then we get decimated all season with a bunch of phony BS calls. And then we can't get a call the rest of the season when we should. Yesterday was just frustration, and the Chiefs don't even know why they're frustrated. It's because they've been delivered a poison pill. They have to be better. They need to talk to the Bill Belichick and Brady and the Patriots and say, how'd you get through this? Because they didn't want the Patriots doing it either. You have to be better. You have to have discipline in all your coaches, and you have to have a strong direction. You have to have awareness and a strong direction that you have to outplay this bullshit. But this,
all right, appreciate you, man. All right, Josh, real quick, and then we'll take a break.
Yeah, so Warren Sharp Football Analysis, did a whole thing when the schedule came out this year about rest days, and the Chiefs do have the third worst margin in terms of rest days to their opponent. It changes a little bit based off of the Patriots game, I suppose, but the Chiefs had the third worst margin, just better than the Rams and 49ers. And the best rest edges this year went to the Jets, Bears, and Washington. Tennessee, Cleveland after that. So there hasn't really been a correlation there in terms of actual performance, but the Chiefs did have a negative 13 rest disparity coming into this schedule. Again, the Rams were minus 17. The Niners are minus 20 on the season. That's before any flexing and anything. But they certainly are on the worst side of it, but I don't believe that there's been a whole lot. I think a full bye week certainly helps.
Yeah, if MVS just had a little bit more time to be prepared for that Eagles game, he would have caught the ball.
Right. I think it's an interesting,
Almost
fair
like if he had
conversation.
a week
I
more.
don't think it's a reasonable thing to blame the season on.
If the Bills didn't have an off week last week, Kadarius Toney would have lined up onside.
Right.
Also, I don't remember anybody complaining when the Chiefs played the Los Angeles Chargers on Sunday Night Football or Sunday afternoon after they played the Denver Broncos on a Thursday the week before, and the Chargers played Monday Night Football. Chiefs played Thursday, Chargers played Monday, and then they matched up on a Sunday. Mm-hmm. Anybody complaining about the Chargers getting screwed there? No. Chiefs won, you move on. Same thing with the Chiefs. You're the Super Bowl champs, act like it. from ESPN. We'll hear from Andy Reid, his press conference today. After Field Yates, we'll hang out with Mick Schaefer, KSHB 41 sports director. We'll get some Learn Funniest Best in the show as well, and try to get to some of the hundreds of texts that have come in throughout the first couple of hours. It's been a heated discussion. People are frustrated, understandably. They're mad, and they're seeing the dominance for the Chiefs in the last 5 years disappear. But the Chiefs are not in unfamiliar territory than they've been in years past. It's unfamiliar in terms of the margin for error, but in relation to like the number 1 seed, number 2 seed, etc., they've actually been in this position before. Just looks a little bit more bleak.
He'll help you fantasy focus while he scoops the news. He's on TV more often than he's in bed. He'll break down the NFL without a single hair ever out of place. It's Field Yates of ESPN. Now in the zone with Jason Anderson on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
All right, we'll continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson, Josh Brisco, Dylan Michaels heading up until 2 o'clock. We'll hear from Andy Reid, his Monday press conference in the next segment. Mick Schaefer coming up at 1 o'clock with some Learn Funniest Best. Right now, let's talk with Field Yates from ESPN, our NFL insider, joining us here in the zone. Field, welcome to the show. How are you, sir?
Jason, I am doing pretty well here. That introduction never gets old to me, although I do know that today is not the day to be celebrating things with a very joyous experience and just general take on things. As of course, it's been a long, let's call it 17 or so hours since the conclusion of yesterday's game.
No doubt. What was your takeaway? What was your reaction to the game? Chiefs end up losing 20-17. A lot of things to take away from this game and some fallout post-game, but what did you see in the game as the Bills walk away winners by 3 points in this one?
So should we just do the penalty thing now? I think we have to just get that out of the way. And frankly, Jason, is by the letter of the law, it is a penalty. My general sense is the frustration that was exuded by Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid. Patrick, I would say, more colorfully, both on the sideline and then while he was toned down, still obviously said some things that when you just read them and even when you hear them, you get the sense of exactly how he was feeling and how frustrated he was. I interpreted that less as Patrick's frustration about the specific call, Jason, and more about the fact that the team is now 8-5 and that in critical moments throughout the season, a wide receiver room has let them down time and again. And many of the errors this season, including yesterday's, are self-inflicted wounds, whether it's dropped passes, whether it's assignments like yesterday that are as simple as basically breaking the huddle and lining up where you are supposed to. Those are the kind of things that when you don't have the same margin for error that they have had for the past half decade are going to cost you games. And so while I totally understand fans' frustration towards the fact that this penalty is called so infrequently, at least historically it has been, and you can call it ticky-tack for lack of a better term, I think that probably the Chiefs' frustrations are more a byproduct of being mindful that you shouldn't lose sight of the forest for the trees, right? If this team were 13-0 right now, or even 10-3 or 11-2, and still had a really solid inside track to the number one overall seed, you probably wouldn't have that same frustration. But given how the season has gone, I think yesterday was in some ways the crescendo for all of that frustration, and it was just vented very clearly by both Patrick and Andy.
Yeah, I'm in agreement. I think that, I said that last night's game and the post game and the frustration that was there and obvious throughout the locker room as well, the players in the locker room. To me, that was the culmination of what this season has been, and especially the last 6 games while they're 2-4, that they've had turnovers and penalties and drop passes and plays here or there, and they've lost these close games that they're typically used to winning, that happens in a play that, would go down in history, and they would have a 4-point lead with a minute to go against the Bills, and the defense back out there that has been awesome, and essentially winning the game, maybe knocking the Bills out of the playoffs, putting themselves still in prime position to get the number 1 seed if they simply win out with the Ravens schedule the rest of the way and the tiebreaker over them and the Dolphins. That I think last night was a projection towards the officials and the frustration overall of what has been taking place week in and week out with this team, that for some reason they cannot figure out how to eliminate some of those issues, and this continues to be a problem with this team, whether it's one positional group or not. It's a problem with this team, and it boiled over last night, and I think the projection was at the officials. One quick aside to that, Field, is that I do understand Patrick Mahomes' frustration when a week ago, after the non-call with the pass interference, had a much more significant impact on the outcome of that game. And Patrick Mahomes said, yeah, the flag wasn't thrown. That's fine. We'll play, and I'd rather them let us play through it, and I could have thrown the ball a little bit farther and stuff like that. And then this week, it's like, okay, well, the flag was now thrown. And it's almost like his frustration is like, pick one, throw the flag or don't throw the flag, but either let us play or don't let us play. You had 2 different pass interference penalties, one on the Hail Mary, one on the throw down the field, and then this one that literally did not impact the play, because if Kadarius Toney was 5 inches further back, the exact same play would have taken place. So I understand his frustration, but I do think the boiling point is an overall culmination that the projection is at the officials.
Yeah, no doubt. And, I understand exactly a lot of what you're saying there, too. But I think that, and, I don't think anybody is interested in having us, rewrite the Constitution of the NFL. But obviously, the official is making that call independent of what the result of the play is, right? That would be what I would call a procedural call for the official that threw the flag, is that every play he is following a protocol about, are the various players on the line of scrimmage, off the line of scrimmage, or in the case of Kadarius Toney, on the line of scrimmage or too far on the line of scrimmage, is past the line of scrimmage. And so that's a trained sort of movement for the official to have that flag ready in case something does take place. But I think that, and I get it, it's only natural, especially after what happened last week, for both the Chiefs, the players, the coaches, and fans to be very frustrated. But, Jason, when I think about this, and I'm trying to zoom back to sort of 30,000 feet away, is that really the bigger issues are that even though Buffalo is a very talented team, as you noted, 2-4 in their past 6 games are the Chiefs, and the offense, I think if I had told you, once Patrick Mahomes kind of established himself as clearly an elite quarterback, and then very soon after that, the best player on the planet, if I had told you that the Chiefs would have Patrick Mahomes and be kind of at best a league average offense, you would say you're crazy, right? They have not had a ton of offensive injuries either, right? It's not like they have been missing Travis Kelce for an extended period of time, although he did miss the game at the beginning of the season. It's been a lot of the guys that have been available that I think we would consider kind of the quote-unquote most valuable portions of this offense, and yet they can't get things going offensively. And it's not like there's necessarily it's not like the matchups have been a bunch of world beaters, right? I mean, that same Philadelphia defense that we watched get carved last night was on the schedule, and the Chiefs scored just 14 points there, right? I mean, the Bills defense has not been nearly what it was, and they managed just 17 points there. So it's been a curious roller coaster ride for the Chiefs offense, and that to me feels like the big story that we should be monitoring, understanding the emotions of the past 24 hours are going to guide us towards the refs and a call that should or should not have been.
Visiting with Field Yates from ESPN. This, not with last night's offside, onside, should he get a warning, should he not get a warning, the way that typically a game may be adjudicated, and the frustrations from Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes and the warning part of it. This is more of a, as you said, like a 30,000-foot view, the macro part of the NFL, and, even going back to last week when it wasn't a penalty against Patrick Mahomes or against the defense when they hit Patrick Mahomes. He was still in bounds, but it was pass interference. It also should have been the clock running with MVS when he was tackled out of bounds, but they stopped the clock. That was a rough final minute of the game.
Sure.
Is there an officiating problem in the NFL? And, well, I think most people agree there is one, but is there a move the NFL can make or is willing to make to try to alleviate some of the issues and some of the more egregious calls that may or may not be called on the field that would be easily correctable, that aren't as subjective as some other nuanced calls?
Yeah, Jason, I think the league would tell you that they've kind of gone down this road in the past couple of off seasons with nothing in the way of resolution. And you think about some of the moments that have been defined by calls one way or the other, and I'm not trying to say that yesterday was a non-issue, but obviously 10 months ago, we're talking about a play that went in the Chiefs' favor that at least people outside of the Midwest felt like was perhaps ticky-tack, and that led to the Chiefs kicking a field goal that that won the Super Bowl just a season ago, and people were wondering, why can't the NFL fix officiating then? And the stakes of that game were dramatically larger than what we saw yesterday, even if both of these teams, the Chiefs and the Bills, really needed that win to kind of sort of keep their playoff tracks where they wanted them to be. I think the one thing that people will continue to come back to is whether there should be something in the form of a more aggressive sky judge, or there are, as we see on occasions, when there is a blatantly incorrect call, the league will buzz in to the head official and say, nope, that was an obvious catch, or that was an obvious drop, or that was an obvious the runner was down by contact before the ball was fumbled. And maybe there's a more aggressive approach to that sort of style of officiating. But I think the reality is that there will always be a human element to officiating, and that's going to drive a lot of us crazy because there are going to be high-leverage moments that go for or against the teams that we care about the most. I think the NFL, in some cases, feels like the answer to the people that are complaining about this all the time is sort of, tough cookies, because this is sports, and it happens. It has happened for hundreds of years that we have had organized sports, and it's going to continue to be that way because these are humans, and it's impossible to be without flaw.
Yeah, it's the talking to the officials in the ear and saying, well, this was a catch, we don't have to replay it, or this wasn't a catch, we don't have to replay it, or this or that. I feel like some of that is like, it maybe a little more objective. What I would wonder is if the next level is a sky judge that can then say, hey, that was pass interference. It was not called. There was no flag on the play, but that was an obvious pass interference. We're putting the ball 1st and 10 at the 5-yard line, and then the official gets on the after discussion, pass interference on the defense. Something is like that. It's one thing to say, hey, after discussion, it was a catch, or after discussion, there is no foul for something here when the flag has been thrown. But there's no after discussion, we are actually now going to throw a flag on this particular play. And that's where I do wonder if the next step of the sky judge is, this was a pretty obvious missed call. So we're going to, institute something where they can come down. Or this is a pretty obvious missed call that Mahomes was not out of bounds yet. And so that shouldn't be 15 yards. This is not one last night that they would then go back and change because he was offsides. How often is it, Field, that the conversation about a warning that should have been given or not given there, that's been quite debated around here, certainly in the show with some of the texts and things like that he should have got a warning. He wasn't given a warning. The Chiefs were complaining about a warning. My point was, they got a warning before the game. It's called the rule book, but I don't play in the NFL, but is it as a big an issue that they should have let that one slide and then told him after the play, like, hey, scoot back next time?
No, Jason, because here's what I would say, and I fear going on Kansas City radio and being the guy that feels like I'm taking the side of the official. But if any team in the NFL this season should be mindful of pre-snap alignment, it's the Chiefs, because obviously no player has been penalized more for an illegal formation than Juwan Taylor, because of how many times he has been lined up, too deep and not been on the line of scrimmage, right? I feel like, and maybe this is exactly what fans don't want to hear, but I do feel like that's one that the Chiefs should have a little complaint about, because they should be so mindful of it. So it's not going to appease anybody to hear that right now, Jason, but is the NFL, it's interesting hearing from Gene Steratore and other officials who have basically said, like, and Carl Sheffers after the game himself, basically like a warning, like, there's no rule that says we have to warn you before every single play. So, these, as you said, the warning is the rule book. So I think some of this is more circumstance than it is a net result. I think it's, frustration over a lot of things have gone by the wayside this season, and the possibility that, games like yesterday could contribute to this team not having the number 1 overall seed in the AFC, and Patrick Mahomes playing a road game for the first time in his playoff career.
From the 30,000-foot view from the NFL nationally, as opposed to us, following every single play and, the 53rd player and the practice squad and everything, and focusing so much attention on the Chiefs and not, the rest of the league as closely. The view of the AFC and the Chiefs, is it as dire of the Chiefs' chance to make the Super Bowl this year as it feels around here with, a 4-point loss against the Eagles when MVS should have caught the ball? The Packers, they lose by 8 when they had multiple plays that they felt like they'd shot themselves in the foot. The Bills last night where they shot themselves in the foot. Is it as dire as that? Or is this going to be maybe one of those playoffs to where there's going to be a few plays throughout those 3 weeks that are going to decide if a team's going to go to the Super Bowl or not, and the ball may bounce your way? From the national view, are the Chiefs as far behind as it feels locally?
Well, here's what I would say, Jason. There's a word that you and I have exchanged previously several times over, which is inevitable. and that the Chiefs were just inevitable once we got to January. They don't feel inevitable right now. Does that mean they can't win? Of course not. That does not mean this team could certainly still win the Super Bowl. You're in first place in your division, but I think that the AFC has much more competitive balance than what we have seen than in any of the past 5 years. That's just the way that things look right now. Miami, albeit laid an egg against the Chiefs when they played in Germany, and they've yet to beat a team with even a 500 record. I'm sorry. Yeah, that's correct. A team with, a winning record. Close enough. The point is that Miami has a lot to prove in big games, right? Yeah. And tonight will not be the test, but Miami does have a couple of upcoming tests that include the Cowboys, they include the Ravens. So the Chiefs have this advantage that you kind of alluded to, which is that the other teams that are competing for that number one seed do have a tougher road to hoe ahead. And this Chiefs team, here's what I would say, is that if I were Andy Reid, and he's one of the greatest coaches in NFL history, he does not need my advice on anything. But if I were asked what my advice would be for the Chiefs, if I were addressing the team room right now, my feeling would be, I understand there is genuine desire to have that number one seed, and you want to win the whole thing. But before we can worry about that stuff, let's worry about some of the smaller stuff that's going to lead to it, right? Let's figure out how we can score touchdowns more consistently and just be a much more effective offense, and how we can stop, kind of kicking ourselves in the shin for way too frequently during the course of games. It's piling up into yards and plays gone by the wayside. So I think it's almost like the smaller view, the shorter lens has to be focused on more, because for the past half decade, it was not that. It was just, we'll see in January, and that's when the things kind of really count. And, when you have Mahomes, you have a way. That's still true, but this year does feel different, this juncture of the season, than it has definitely over any of the past 4 seasons, and really that first year with Patrick as well under center.
Yeah, the 5 losses, Chiefs are -7 in the turnover differential, and they're even in the 8 wins overall, just in general. So, we'll see. Field Yates from ESPN, our NFL insider. Field, you're the man as always. Very much appreciate the time, sir. Enjoy the football. We will talk next week.
Yeah, doubleheader tonight, Jason.
I know, right?
A fun way to recap Week 14, and then by tomorrow, every team will have had its bye. We'll be back to normal for the last 4 Sundays of the season, and then starting this week, as I'm sure your audience is very much aware, we've got Thursday, Saturday, and Sunday and Monday football. So lots of weird scheduling days ahead.
And I did not realize I'd be paying attention to the Broncos-Lions game as closely as I'll be watching on Saturday.
Jeez. Yeah, Broncos sort of in the mix. The mix all of a sudden.
One game back, and they split.
That's right.
Between the two. So we'll see. Field, you're the man. Appreciate the time as always, brother.
All right, sounds good. Talk to you soon.
Absolutely. There's Field Yates from ESPN, NFL Insider. Great job that he does there with ESPN, and also with a lot of the fantasy stuff as well. The position the Chiefs are in right now is not all that unfamiliar from the standings in the AFC. It's unfamiliar in how they're playing offense. It's unfamiliar in seeing the scenes on the sideline of Mahomes being upset and being held back from going and yelling at an official. It's unfamiliar with Mahomes and Josh Allen going to, hug at the middle of the field, and it's not a, hey, man, keep doing your thing. Great work. Hopefully we see it's Mahomes going, worst bleeping call I've ever seen, and then just turning around and walking away, and Josh Allen going, okay. Later. Big gulps, huh?
Pat on the back and okay.
See you later. But yeah, and it's one thing like the Bills players in the locker room that are all, talking about the Kelsey play because it didn't kill him. They're like, oh, that was amazing. One of the best plays. Josh Allen, what do you say? It was the ballsiest play he's ever seen in his life. High school, college, NFL, the ballsiest play I've ever seen by Kelsey. Didn't matter. So ballsy, we won. Don't care. But the unfamiliar part is, right now the Chiefs are the 3 seed. Last year at this time, the Chiefs were the 2 seed after Week 14. In 2021, after Week 14, the Chiefs were the 3 seed. 2020, after Week 14, they were, they ended up with a 14-1 record. They were the 1 seed. 2019, after Week 14, they were the 3 seed. And in 2018, they were the 1 seed. So in the 5 years they have hosted the AFC Championship, only twice after Week 14 have they been sitting in the number 1 seed spot at that point, if the season were to end that day. And 1, 2, 3 different times they ended up getting the 1 seed. They were sitting in below the 1, the 3, the 3, the 2. So, I mean, they've been in pseudo this position before, where the 3 seed, and thinking you're not even going to get it. That was when there was more than one bye as well. Like in 2008, you're not going to get a bye at all. You only had to catch the team right in front of you to get that bye, which the Chiefs ended up doing in 2019, catching New England. And Baltimore got the 1 seed, Chiefs got the 2 seed, and then we know Baltimore ended up losing. So the Chiefs didn't have to go to Baltimore. They played at home. But they have been in somewhat of this position before. The difference is a feeling of things falling apart and the frustrations mounting, and where do they go from here? That's going to be the big unknown. Where do they go from here? Do they go up? Do they stagnate? Does this fracture them? Is this a rallying cry? The Michigan Wolverines, us versus the world, free Jim Harbaugh. Do the Chiefs come out with shirts that say Chiefs versus the world on Sunday in New England? And say, bleep this, we'll take on...
New England would be a sweet time to debut that. That would rule.
That's right. I mean, is that the rallying cry of everybody coming closer together and like, no, we're not letting this happen anymore? Problem is, you can try to not let it happen all you want. This game meant a lot to the Chiefs. It meant a lot. And that's why the frustrations and the passion were there after the game. All throughout the locker room. And... you know, they don't end up with a win. The Bills do, and the Bills are alive. They may see the Bills first round of the playoffs. I mean, right now in the AFC, there are 9 teams that are either 8-5 or 7-6.
Crazy.
And 6 teams are tied at 7-6. I mean, it is the final 4 games of the season are going to be nuts with all of the movement that's going to take place from, you know, probably seed 4 through 7 through 11, right?
Yeah.
Seed 4 through 7, and then the next 4 teams after that. Just all of the different movement up and down that's going to take place. And for some reason, I'm, you know, going to have to be watching the Lions and Broncos game on Saturday a little more closely than just having some fun at DraftKings or fantasy football related. That it's going to be well, let's go Lions. You know, let's go Detroit. And after Detroit lost, I mean, I feel good about the Lions winning that game at home. I mean, they are 2 games up on the Vikings, and they still have to play the Vikings twice. So if they lose on Saturday and the Vikings end up winning, they're 1 game up on the Vikings, and they will have 2 games left out of the final, I think, 3 games for Detroit against Minnesota. Minnesota then would control their own destiny if the Lions lose this weekend and Minnesota wins.
Minnesota, who made the choice to play Nick Mullins yesterday.
Yes, bench Joshua Dobbs. And, you know, Jefferson that's missed a lot of time and then went to the hospital yesterday with a chest injury. And we'll see what the latest is with him. But somehow they're right there. Somehow the Broncos are right there. And somehow a team from the NFC South is going to make the playoffs.
Just legally speaking, they have to.
3 teams tied at 6 and 7 atop that division right now.
You're right that it's not like a meaningfully untread territory for the Chiefs here, but I just went ahead and grabbed the math on this because it does feel worse than it's felt in a long time for a whole variety of issues. I'm doing the sneaky math here of picking it up the day after they beat the Chargers, right? But so the Chiefs beat the Chargers on October 22nd. So the Chiefs have won 2 football games since October 23rd. They've won 2 football games in the last 50 days. Now, again, they've won 3 in the last 51. So if you want to go ahead and speed it up, you still can. But then to go from the Broncos' loss to the win over the Dolphins to a bye week to losing to the Eagles to beating the hapless Raiders in a game that was not hapless at the beginning for Las Vegas to losing 2 in a row here, it actually feels worse than going 2 and 3. They've won 2 games in the last 6 weeks, or 2 and 4, and have won 2 games in the last 7 weeks.
Yeah.
Because you had a bye where you
right.
I mean, you're coming off a win, so that felt more like a winning bye week, but then it was all, okay, well, then do it again against the Eagles. You both got some rest. It's, it is one of the lowest stretches in the Mahomes era, in part because I think just how these losses have felt, and of course in part because like you're watching a team with the best quarterback in football and one of the best defenses in football not be able to win football games over the likes of half of the AFC West, and I mean they obviously beat the Raiders, but like struggling against half the AFC West, straight up losing your streak against the Broncos, and then you lose to a really good team in the Eagles, an okay team in the Packers, and a team whose head coach had to apologize for using 9/11 terrorists as a good example of teamwork. This week leading into this game, you lost to that team by 3.
And I think part of
the vibes are horrendous.
Yeah. And I think part of the vibes are, it's not just the 2 and 4, which is a big part of it.
Yep.
But it's also feeling like you are watching this team swim upstream.
Yeah.
The entire game.
Yep.
That when they were 6-1 after beating the Chargers and winning 31-17, and they're facing off against the Broncos, and they lose 24-9, and that was a fumble, an interception, a fumble. I mean, 4 out of 4 of the top plays in that game went the Broncos' way with win percentage and expected points added. Almost 40% added for the Broncos in those 4 top plays. Felt like you were swimming upstream and then the fumble by Hardman. You were just trying to get some sort of a foothold in that game. And then you got the Miami Dolphins, and you started out so well. But then the second half was the taste you left with was the frustration of not being able to score. And you did win 21-14, but damn, you were up 21-0. All right, going to the bye. Figure out what's going on with this offense, because they are struggling. They scored 9 points against the Broncos and 14 points against the Dolphins. 7 of those came with the defense, and they didn't score in the second half at all. All right, now you got the Eagles. Boom, you jump out to a pretty good, 17, points. Then you don't score in the second half, and that's the taste left in your mouth because you lost that game. You lost 14-0 in the second half, and you lost that game by 4. And MVS drops the football. And there were, time and time again, issues in that game. You had 2 turnovers. You finished -1 on turnovers. Oh, and then you start off slow, but then you turn it on against the Raiders, and you start scoring. Drive in and drive out. Points on the board, points on the board, points on the board. Chiefs defense gives up 3 more points the rest of the game after those first couple drives when they gave up 14. After that 63-yard run from Josh Jacobs, they gave up a field goal the rest of the game. Okay, feeling good, but it's the Raiders. What do you do now? And then the Packers, you fall behind 14-3, and you're swimming upstream the whole time. And you never actually get on top again. And against Buffalo, you fall behind 14-0. You're swimming upstream the whole time, and you never actually take the lead again. You get to it being tied. That's it. Now, the Chiefs had the ball down by 2 to the Packers and went 3 and out. The Chiefs had the ball in the fourth quarter, tied against Buffalo, and went 3 and out. They have fought to get back and fought to get back and fought to get back, and then they're on an even plane, and then they just go quietly into that dark night. And they end up losing. That's part of the last 6 weeks, is that, 50 days?
Yeah.
For 50 days, it has felt like this Chiefs team has just been pulling teeth. It's been frustrating watches.
It's really been that way since week 1. I mean, this whole season has been upstream pulling teeth.
But they haven't been trailing 14-0 every week that they, it seems like in these last 3 games. Trailing 14-0 to Buffalo, 14-3 to Green Bay, 14-0 to Vegas. Philadelphia they led early, but still lost because the second half they couldn't get anything going. And, self-inflicted wounds. I don't remember who it was last night that tweeted out that nobody beats the Chiefs better than the Chiefs.
Yep.
And you give credit to Buffalo because Joe Brady is doing some things differently offensively. They're getting James Cook involved. They're running Josh Allen a little bit more. And it worked. And you give credit to Josh Allen because he made an amazing throw on 3rd down and 5 to Hardy for a 25-yard gain. McDuffie was right there. Players make plays. Sometimes it happens in a game. That was a huge play. The throw to Murray on 3rd down and 7 when Josh Allen's falling out of bounds. I thought it was incomplete. They called it complete. No matter what the call was, it's a completed pass. They get down. They end up punting. But that's another 3 minutes off the clock when they end up punting because the Chiefs got the ball at their own 30 as opposed to the Bills punting from the 25. Mm-hmm. That's, kind of significant, I guess. But regardless, this is the situation they are in. They can go to the Super Bowl still. The frustration is that the Chiefs are chasing other teams. They are living life the way that other teams have been living the last few years. The difference to me is that there isn't a Chiefs team up there that's, if the 49ers were in the AFC, they would be like, well, yeah, you're chasing other teams and you've got to figure out how to win that game on the road. Well, good luck. Chiefs are chasing other teams that don't have postseason success, that haven't been there, done that. Maybe it bites them, maybe it doesn't. And they're chasing teams that have had injury issues at the quarterback. Maybe Tua stays healthy the whole year. Maybe Lamar Jackson stays healthy the whole year. We'll find out. Chiefs are also chasing teams that aren't dealing with the massive cap hit the Chiefs are at this point, which doesn't help you now, but it does put into perspective moving forward that the Chiefs are doing this while dealing with a situation and a scenario that the Bills are going to have to be dealing with very soon. The Packers, well, just looking at the AFC, the Dolphins are going to have to be dealing with. The Ravens are going to have to be dealing with. The Jags are going to have to be dealing with. The Bengals are going to have to be dealing with. Even the Chargers, are going to have to be dealing with all of those same things the Chiefs are. We'll see how they adjust. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back here from Andy Reid next.
It's unfortunate because Greenlight Dispensary usually has a fun thing for you on a...
All right, we continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson with you, Josh Brisco, Dylan Michaels heading up until 2 o'clock. 913-912-4810. Tons and tons of texts have come in because there's obviously a lot to talk about and a lot to take away from the game yesterday and the last 6 weeks or so with, what's going to happen moving forward in the AFC. You've got the Ravens that damn near lost to the Rams at home, but they found ways to make plays. 3rd and 17, down by 5 points, the Ravens under 2 minutes to play. 3rd and 17, and Lamar Jackson throws a touchdown. I mean, it was a great play, great throw. They score. Incomplete there, another incomplete. We might be talking about, the Ravens lost a game, and Chiefs are only a game back of them, but you still need the Miami Dolphins to lose 2 games if the Chiefs are going to get the number 1 seed. I doubt they lose tonight to the Tennessee Titans. That's highly doubtful that takes place. But they still have the final 3 weeks of the season because one of the things of the Chiefs losing to the Bills is that the last game of the season for the Bills against the Dolphins becomes much more of a massive game. And the Dolphins end the season with the Cowboys at home, on the road at Baltimore, and Buffalo at home. That's how they end the year. If they drop one to the Titans or Jets, they are in absolute trouble. And the Baltimore Ravens, in their final 4 games of the season, they are at Jacksonville this weekend, at San Francisco the week after that, Miami at home, and then the Steelers at home that last week of the season on January 7th. So Baltimore and the Chiefs, after Week 16, might be tied at, what would that be, 10-5, and the Chiefs with the 2 seed at 10-5 if Baltimore can't go to Jacksonville and can't go to San Francisco and win. They certainly could, and they could be sitting here 12-3 and going, well, the Chiefs ain't getting the number 1 seed. It's just about now you want the Ravens to beat the Dolphins, because you want to find a way to get the 2 seed at least to host that divisional round game and only have to go to Baltimore if everything, ends up being chalk. But this was the final test to me for the Chiefs the rest of the way in these final, 5 games to play. I know Cincinnati has looked better with Jake Browning at quarterback. And it is a home game. I don't know what Cincinnati will look like at that time. Hell, I don't know what the Chiefs will look like. But they damn sure better win this weekend. They're 10-point favorites, 9.5-point favorites now, but they're 9.5-point favorites this weekend at New England. They've got the Raiders at home, which they should take care of business. They got the Bengals at home. They should absolutely take care of business. There's no Joe Burrow, and there's no excuse to lose to that team. And then they take on the Chargers on the road. That may or may not have a head coach, and Justin Herbert's dealing with a fractured finger on his throwing hand. Going to be out there looking like Steve DeBerg with a huge casted-up, finger. I think it's his middle finger, though, not like DeBerg was a broken pinky, I believe, when he was playing through that thing. But
I'm brave enough to say the 5-8 Chargers should go ahead and shut down Justin Herbert. He should not.
No.
We should be talking about Easton Stick in that game.
No, not at all. We'll be talking about that this weekend, right? For the Chargers this Thursday, I should say?
Yeah, Thursday. Aiden O'Connell versus Easton Stick.
Oh, thank God. Well, we got a fun one on Thursday. Can we
Al
flex
Michaels, let's go.
in the ball game, and Kirk, Al, and Kirk on that Thursday night game.
Kirk's going to give it his best.
Yeah.
Al Michaels might melt into his chair. I think that could be good TV.
Well, what we said last week, I think still holds true. I don't think the number 1 seed is going to have 3 losses in the AFC.
Yeah.
We said that at least I said that last week. I still don't think the number 1 seed is going to have 3 losses. The question for the Chiefs is the number 1 seed going to have 5 losses,
right,
or not?
Right.
Certainly possible. But if the Chiefs are going to win the Super Bowl, they need to win at least their next 7 games, and more than likely their next 8, if they're going to win the Super Bowl. Getting to an AFC championship game is going to be difficult because, as we've talked about, the margin for error is missing, and there's just something that has been constantly wrong with this offense throughout the year. whether it's just as simple as they can't get the big plays, or it's much more of a bigger issue of the receivers, Patrick Mahomes, the offensive line, the coaching, the play calling, the attention to detail, all of that is sticking out and becoming a constant theme week in and week out, and really becoming, and it became that in week 1/2, and then it's like, all right, this is something that we'll be monitoring and watching all season long. And we have been. And it hasn't gotten better. Going into week 15 now, and we're still talking about this wide receiver group. They also have to find a way to stop falling behind early. Get points early. Get off the field early for the Chiefs defense. Because the scripted plays by the other team, whether it's the first 15, first 20, whatever, resulted in a couple of touchdowns the last few weeks of the season. Defensively, it's got to be better. They've been pretty damn good in the second half, and they were really good in the second half last night. Just the 3 points they gave up after, Chiefs fell behind 14-0. The defense did everything in their power to keep their team in the game and to give their team a chance to win, and another chance, and another chance, and another chance. And the offense couldn't take advantage. Down 17-14, you've got 1st and 10 at the 12-yard line. And you pick up 2 yards and kick a field goal to tie it up at 17. You get the ball right back. And you go 3 and out. Ball at midfield. And the defense gave you the ball right back without giving up a point. You're down 17-14. You got 1st and 10 at the 12-yard line. And you get a field goal. And the defense gives you the ball right back. And you go 3 and out. And then Josh Allen makes some plays. The defense gives up a field goal there at the end. And they can't get into field goal range with a minute to play. And they still had a timeout, right? Minute to play and a timeout?
So, yep.
Yeah, because they had to use the timeout before 4th down.
Yeah, there you go.
Which I was fine with, but whatever. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back, continue rolling. We'll
Do we
hear
have a
from
timeout?
I think we've got at least one left, right?
I think we do.
Probably, maybe 2.
We're just not on the same page. We'll get it figured out. It's only December.
Yeah. Well, Dylan usually gives me a warning that we need to call timeout.
I'm like Peyton Manning on the Manning cast when the Broncos blew that as well. So
Dylan's just doing the surrender cobra
Gotta take one here.
3 hours of the day.
Take one. Hey, defense, those are our timeouts. More zone next. We'll hear from Mick Schaefer in the next hour. We'll hear from Andy Reid as well.
Finally, some answers from
Yes.
Mick Schaefer.
We'll see if Mick Schaefer will double down or change his tune from last night. And Andy Reid will talk with his usual Monday press conference. They get set for the New England Patriots coming up noon there in Foxborough. Still Gillette Stadium?
That's a great question.
They used to be the best a man can get. They aren't anymore, the Patriots.
It looks like it's still Gillette Stadium, Jason.
Okay.
You're welcome.
Thank you, sir.
Got it before the end of the hour.
Awesome. We'll take a timeout. Come back. Mick Schaefer, Andy Reid, next.
family since 1958. Enjoy healthier food, more free time, free delivery, and better value. Go to GuaranteedFoods.com.
Mick Schaefer, KSHB 41 Sports Director, hanging out with us here. We'll hear from Andy Reid as his Monday press conference. They get set for the New England Patriots.
It's a Zoom conference, right? We don't call it a press conference, right?
Sorry.
It's a Zoomer. Is that kind of a Zoomer?
The press is not involved in this at all. So
they're all news conferences. There's no printing press anymore.
It's a good point. Yes. But extra. Read all about it. Champ.
Got the hat, right, with the little press card in there.
We got to bring those back.
Yeah. Tell me a little bit more about the old football and tackle.
I'm changing out the light bulb here in this camera.
Yeah, I'm trying to find the winner for the NHL game in the old stick and puck. All right, let's hear from Andy Reid and his opening statement today after the 20-17 loss to the Bills.
Hey, Coach, can you hear us okay?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
We can. We're ready when you are.
All right. I don't have any injuries for you. Guys are coming in now. Had a chance to go back through the tape and evaluate it. We, like I mentioned to the team, there's some good things in there that are going to help us. We're getting better in some spots, but we've got to clean up some things with the penalties and drops, and so offensively, and then obviously the scores early on the defensive side. We've got to take care of that. So. We're not playing from behind there. So, but some of that also was turnovers on the offensive side, and that added up to it. So, with that, I know what I said about the officials yesterday, or insinuated about the officials. Listen, there are no excuses on this thing. That's not what I'm saying. And I've always had a good working relationship with these guys, and that's the important part. So they know when they tell me something with a guy that I'm going to go address the guy like right now and make sure that it gets changed. When you're talking about inches, those type of things, and those happen in the game. I mean, I've been doing this a long time, so this isn't an excuse or a blame on the officials for blowing the game. That's not what it is, but it's that working relationship. That part is so important in this thing. And so, because you see it on both sides, whether it's a defensive end lining up in the neutral zone at times, or that just you give the head coach a heads up, and then in our case, we tell them, and then if they get called, listen, that's you were warned, and so that's how it's worked over the years. That's what I was really trying to get across. And I take a lot of pride in taking what the officials give me and going to our players and telling them, like immediately telling them and giving them that and telling them that, hey, listen, they're giving you a warning. If you don't do it, that's on your plate. And that's the important part that I was trying to get across, but probably not very well after the game. So anyways, with that, we've got to do better, just all the way around, and that's what we're striving for. But at the same time, we're getting better, and it's so close. It's crazy. So, and I think the guys they understand what we've got to get done. So, with that, time's yours.
I mean, it doesn't feel close.
I don't like this perspective of the Chiefs are some underdog, right? Like they're the defending Super Bowl champs, and it's portrayed like they were the 32nd best team in the league, and we're really close to being a good team. We're just right there. When in reality, what should be talked about, it's like you're not climbing up this ladder. You are falling down several pegs here. This is what everybody's seeing. It's not the direction of the arrow is pointing way downward, not slightly upward.
And right now there's not a whole lot of trust from fans to the coaching staff, to where it's like, well, if Andy Reid says they're close, then, benefit of the doubt. If they're right there just getting ready to have this offensive explosion and consistency, it doesn't feel that way at all, because since they score 31 points against the Raiders, they score 31 against the Chargers, and they bounce back right after that and score 9 and 21 and 17. Then they score 31 against the Raiders, and they bounce back with 19 and 17. So those 31 points were not signs of things to come. Like, they're not getting close, they're getting worse.
Yeah, those are the outliers, right? The Bears game's the outlier. It's a bad offense at this point.
Yeah, they had 1, 2, 3, 4 of 5 games in which they scored more than 21 points, and they have now one game in their last 6 where they've scored more than 21 points. So it's going the other way.
The Bears didn't have a defensive coordinator for that game. He resigned under mysterious circumstances that we never heard anything else about. Like, that's the offensive explosion game.
Yeah, it was so bad that people were just stealing equipment from their facilities.
The Bills are like imploding from the inside, right? They almost didn't have a coach for this game.
It was an inside job. Is that what you're saying? Reed says he was happy to see some things work.
And you had a whole basket full of those yesterday. Well done, Josh.
Thanks.
Andy Reid said he was happy to see some things work offensively for the Chiefs against the Bills.
I thought we had a good blend of things going. That's what I thought. Of the run, the screen, the quick screens, the pass. We were presenting a lot out there for a defense to have to defend, and we were doing that with accuracy for the most part. There are a couple that we've got to work on. That's you come out of every game like that, but we had a lot of yards, and that was a positive thing. And I thought the guys came out with the right intent. They were playing their tail off, aggressive, hard football, both sides of the ball, and on special teams. So we've got to clean up some of these self-destructive things, and whether it's the penalties, whether it's the drops, whether it's the turnovers, we got to clean that up, and we'll be okay. And we have to be consistent with that.
And then just the housekeeping category, what are your expectations for Justin Ross and his reintegration potentially this week?
Yeah, we'll just see kind of where he's at. Let's physically, and it's hard to be gone that long and just kind of jump right back in. So we'll just have to see where he's at.
I thought we were playing sound from after last night's game. I didn't know it was the Lions game. I thought it was.
Dylan, check the date again.
Shouldn't we just do topical stuff, Dylan, and not from the Lions game, or maybe I don't know every loss over the past 5 years?
I know that I can start dropping some weight if I got to clean up some of the eating habits, like some of the snacks and things like that. You got the Snickers bar right there.
With a mouthful.
If I could just clean up some of these things, it would. I'm so close to eating a nutritious and having a healthy diet and losing some of this weight. I just need to clean up the eating habits that continue to hurt me.
Just eating Cocoa Pebbles like a pelican.
Yeah.
I love the defense catching a stray for being down early, being down 14-0. The Chiefs had the ball twice before the Bills scored and went interception punt.
Yeah, I noted that as well. Adam Teicher asked Andy what his coaching message is to Kadarius Toney, what it will be.
Yeah, so listen, normally he looks over to the sideline and just gets an okay. And on that one, he just happened not to. So that would be the coaching point. Just make sure you check. Make sure you check with the guy on the side just to see if you're aligned. I mean, he's not lining up off sides on purpose. And listen, he was 2 inches away from or an inch from being legal. And so I mean, you can always, like I said, you can argue both sides of it. It's for both teams. There are things that happen where people, just it happens like that. So I guess the league's trying to clean that up. From what I heard by one of the broadcasters last night. So I don't, whatever.
Okay, and that's not the first mistake he's made. Obviously, that's been at a big point in a game that's really cost you guys this year. Are you anywhere close to maybe getting to a point with him where maybe you feel like he needs a little more development, a little more coaching before he gets more playing time? Are you anywhere near that point at all with him?
Well, the thing I know, Adam, is he makes plays. He makes plays when he has the ball in his hand. And that's the important part. He's a young guy. I mean, he's not coming to us with a ton of experience. So, but I think he's getting better every week. This is one of those things, Adam, that but I don't see that as being a negative. I look at the things that he produced on too. So.
Hold on. So Andy Reid saying that Kadarius Toney did not look over at the side judge to communicate whether he was onside or not. Well, it's weird because I was told earlier in a text that literally every single play, all caps, every single play, every receiver looks over and points at the official, and the official then no, it is true. This person coached JUCO football.
Okay.
And I've never coached before. I also didn't play football either, except for that catch of 11 yards. Bitch. But every single time on every single play, without fail, 100% out of 100%, they look over to the official, and the official communicates. And this official just didn't communicate, except for Andy Reid saying that Kadarius Toney apparently usually looks over. Not every time, usually looks over.
Well, I'll say this. He shouldn't need to there. I mean, he is bunched up next to the tackle. I mean, he is very close to the football. He's almost right at midfield. He's a heck of a lot closer to the football than he is to the official, whereas most of the time it's like, okay, I can tell where I'm at that point. I don't need to look down the line where there's two or three other receivers between me and the official looking to say, hey, I'm off, I'm on, all that stuff. I don't need to do that. You shouldn't need to do that. I mean, you line up with the tackle, basically.
Yeah.
Don't be ahead of him.
He and Rashee Rice were both on the line of scrimmage. Only Rashee Rice's front foot was at the 50, and Kadarius Toney's front foot was right on the 49-yard line.
Jawan Taylor was on the 49. Kadarius Toney was on the 49. They were just different 49s, and they were both supposed to be on the line of scrimmage.
Which was the 49, by the way.
By the way, if you look, the defender closest to Kadarius Toney, the defender's head is over Toney's foot, right? Yet the defender is not in the neutral zone. That's how far off sides he was.
Well, that's like...
The defender was not in the neutral zone, yet he was overlapping with Kadarius Toney.
Well, I've also wondered, and I didn't coach or play the game, the ball was placed at the 49 exact.
And that's part of it, too. I mean, you have Creed, and a lot of centers, a lot of times, they'll move it back, right? Yeah. They'll adjust it.
So, like, the football lays flat on the ground when they place it at the 49-yard line with the nose at the 49. Kadarius Toney's foot was on the 49. Creed Humphrey then picks up the ball and puts it straight up and down, which is at the 49.5. And then he snaps it from, like, the top of the football and then snaps it back. So now it's a half yard back from where the actual line of scrimmage is, but that's where the football was. So then the still shot is look at Kadarius Toney and look at the football. The football's like it is the back of his back leg. His foot is a full half yard ahead of the where the football is, but the down marker is on the 49 where Kadarius Toney's look. So if you're on the 49 and the ball's on the 49, is that offsides? Are you supposed to be over the line of scrimmage or over the 49? Do you have to be past the 49 hash? I don't know. I just those particular details.
It was a careless mistake made by one of the members of an offense full of mistake makers. This offense is full of people who just make mistakes every single drive of every single game and every year, frankly. It's just now they don't have the talent, and they've got their two big stars aren't having their big star normal seasons, and they don't have the talent to overcome all these mistakes that Andy Reid offenses always make.
Sam McDowell asked Andy Reid about the point of emphasis on lining up correctly.
Well, I guess maybe they mentioned it to us probably somewhere. If this was one of the officials saying it on the broadcast, so it was I'm sure that they probably mentioned it somewhere.
But it's not something that you've gone over with your team because it's been some. I know you guys get stuff in training camp that
the officials come to give us everything, so that's everything's been covered, Sam.
Let's go next to Seren Petro. Go ahead, Seren.
Coach, Pat obviously was quite upset on the sideline and was having to be held back. And I know he's frustrated. I know everybody on your organization's frustrated about the call, but how much of that do you think this is the third game where really a receivers whether it's a drop or at the end of the game or a penalty or a collection of drops, has really ended up maybe costing you a win. How much of that do you think is frustration, maybe with the fact that you guys haven't got over that hump, and maybe some guys have let him down? Do you see any of that creeping into why he was so frustrated in that game?
Yeah, I think what he said was pretty accurate. And you know this, Sarin, but we put so much time and effort into it, and both physical and mental effort, and for it to come down to something like that, that ends up being the frustration. It's not what happened before that, but you just you know kind of what you've heard before, and you put that in the memory bank on again how things are normally handled. So when something changes like that in that type of a situation against two great, really good football teams playing each other, and you're down to a minute and a half or a minute 50 seconds, all of a sudden you're right there and have a big play. I mean, I think anybody would say that that's a little bit frustrating. You just spent a whole week in preparation for an hour game. You just put hours into this thing for it to come down to that inch. Well, do we need to line up right? Yeah, we do. Yeah, we do. I mean, we've got to take care of that and not put it in the officials' hands. With that part, we have to do. So, but the frustration comes in with the other part that, you spend so much time doing that thing. So, but I don't see it as a thing that's happened in the past and this or that. But I mean, it's happened the last couple of weeks, but it's one of those things. So I don't think that's where the frustration was at that time, though.
This is so weird. I mean, I think I can't believe that the Chiefs are getting all stompy foot this week over the refs.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if they do it last week, they're throwing fits over the Marquez Velez scandal. Everybody is going to throw fits with them, and they did for them.
Everybody threw fits for them, exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
And so this one, it's the opposite. It's like, no, we kind of all saw this. This was like, no, this is refs kind of did their job, letter of the law. I mean, it's so funny the two distinct reactions that are fitting in opposite places here the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, I think if these two games are happening exactly the same in inverted order, all of the rage is for the non-call on the pass interference.
And
just 2 weeks in a row.
We're wasting so much time on this. This was a game full of mistakes.
Agreed.
Yep.
Every single week, you can point to any possession, and it looks just like the failed last possessions of these games.
Yep.
Right? I mean, they're hit with a little bit of adversity, and bam, drives over. Right? They cannot overcome it.
Because I don't know the answer to this, I would love to know the clarification because, looking at it again, the ball is laying on the 49-yard line, and Kadarius Toney lines up before Creed Humphrey picks up the football. So Kadarius Toney's foot's on the 49-yard line where the ball is. Creed Humphrey then picks up the football and pulls it back to the 49.5-yard line. So when they pause it, the football's at the 49.5 with Creed Humphrey, and Kadarius Toney's foot's at the 49-yard line, right in line with the hash marker, right? But when he goes and lines up, the ball's laying there, and that's where it's at. I would love to know the clarification on that. Is that
the way?
Is that the original line of scrimmage?
Screwed up.
Oh, agreed.
Right?
Yeah, but is that the original line of scrimmage, or should it be when the center pulls the football back?
I would say it's wherever the center pulls it back to.
I would
because
guess
you see that
well.
quite a bit, to where the line is just a little off from where the ball is.
Yeah, I mean,
that's why it's a neutral zone also. I mean, like there's some wiggle room baked in there.
I mean,
Switzerland in there.
Have you watched the down the line view of the tush push and the brotherly shove? I mean, Jason Kelsey's helmet's over the ball.
Over the ball, yeah.
He's lining up with the ball in one hand and his other hand on the field.
They called an offensive offsides last night on a tush push. I don't know if it was on Kelsey or if it was on one of the other linemen.
And I wonder if last night's call was because of Sunday afternoon.
Well, I mean, look, I saw...
Because, again, Jason Kelsey's helmet, a lot is past the football when he snaps that thing. But it's just not really called. And I think that's the point of the Chiefs' frustration is that, was this a point of emphasis? No, not really. If it's that close, when you're talking about where his foot was compared to where the original line of scrimmage was, which was the 49, because even right now on ESPN, they're pausing it, and they drew a line from where the Creed Humphrey had the football down to Kadarius Toney, and the line goes right between Kadarius Toney's legs. But if they drew the line of where the football was laying before Creed Humphrey touched it, it would go right to his front foot. And I think that's the point the Chiefs are making is, well, when it's that close by inches, you're talking discrepancies of that of that nature. You really should not, aren't needed to be discussed if you're talking.
And
about
I don't doubt Andy Reid and
close.
Patrick Mahomes when they say this is the run of game, this is the protocol, this is how it's done. I believe them in that not everything is hard and fast, and those are humans having conversations with humans out there. And there are refs that don't want to make these certain calls, and they want to help you out. I know there are conversations going all game long, and it's not just robotics out there. And so where there is some sort of gray area. So I believe them in that. I think this offense at this point with this fan base has garnered no benefit of the doubt.
Agreed.
Right? To where, like, okay, this team was rolling at 11-1, and it's a team that's clicking, and they don't do all the dumb stuff, and the receivers have had, I don't know, a normal year, then I think you've got more of the Chiefs kind of fan base behind them saying, no, okay, I believe that. But it's just so easy to throw it into the barrel with the rest of these careless mistakes that get made out there.
Andy Reid wrapped it up, says that he feels like the Chiefs have what it takes to finish strong.
Yeah, it's week to week in the league. I think our players understand that. I mean, they're together. If that's what you're asking, they know what they need to do, and we've just got to get it done. We know we're playing a good opponent this week. We talked about that after the game, and so they know that they've got to be focused in and ready to go. But in this league, it's a matter of getting those things straightened out, and when you do, and you're in a good position health wise, you get up and you go. And so that's how I think they're thinking.
Go ahead, Nate.
Andy, you've been a coach that's been known for really emphasizing details and being detail oriented. I have two questions for you, Coach. Just how surprising or concerning is it that it's 14 weeks into the season and minor details are the reason you guys have struggled at times? And what do you feel like you need to re-emphasize to get guys to be better with the attention to detail necessary to win close games?
Yeah, well, we got to take care of that business there of the penalties and the detailed things, and so it's not it's getting done 90% of the time, but you got to keep it right the whole time at this level, and so that's what we're working on. And I get paid to teach, so that's what I'm going to continue to teach. The players are going to continue to work, and then we got to get ourselves ready to go up and play, in New England.
Hey, Andy. Obviously, you've got a history of great relationships with officials, and you respect the game the way you do. So it was unusual for you last night to do that. Did you feel you needed to send a message to the team by speaking out like that, or was there something important you needed to get across, or was it just the emotion of the moment?
No, I was just speaking what I thought was the truth, and my intention was, I've been doing this a long time. I think I've got a good relationship with the officials, and I had no communication. That's all. I mean, that's really where I was coming from. I was disappointed in that part. And so, I know, again, how much time and effort goes into it. I know how much I've got to sit in front of the media. I know how much our players have to sit in front of the media and answer these questions. And we try to make it the right way, try to do it the right way. So, that's all that's where I was with it. And, I was just speaking what I thought was the truth.
You know what else was very careless?
What's that?
The lateral by Travis Kelce. That thing was about an inch away from getting knocked down.
But it was also a beautiful spiral.
It was a great
it was just
pass. It was a
beautiful
great
spiral
play, but honestly, it was kind of uncalled for. And
there's also time left. It wasn't like there was
Tons
15
of
seconds
time
left. They
left.
were going to give the ball back with a minute left.
Like percentage chance of winning, had he gone down there, I think would have been higher had the touchdown been allowed and scored with like a minute and change left.
Down 3.
You're down 3.
Down 3 with the
And
minute.
if that thing gets knocked down, it's probably a turnover at that point.
At some point, I'm like, well, if he misses Tony, it just goes out of bounds. No. The issue was having the pass batted down there.
I mean, it was
a
fraction away.
Made me nervous in retrospect, even more so.
I was nervous even watching the replays.
And you knew it didn't count.
For a play that didn't even count.
All right, we'll take a timeout. We'll come back, learn funniest best next. All right, we continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson, Josh Brisco, Dylan Michaels, Mick Schaefer, KSHB 41's Mick Schaefer. It is time for a little Learn Funniest Bets. It's presented by Pyramid Roofing. For a free estimate, 816-966-1101 or pyramidroofingkc.com. Learn Funniest Best, going around the room. What we learned from the weekend, the funniest from the weekend, and the best from the weekend. Mine have, nothing to do with sports, which I'm very excited about. Zero sports related for any of the Learn Funniest and Best. What my learned is that I know that, the government and everything it's always listening, right? Mm-hmm. But I've never had such a direct evidence than over the weekend. So I was wondering, my wife and I were talking about what my son's birthstone is for November. We were talking about it. Now, I don't know what it is. I've never looked it up, right? I don't know the last time I've ever looked it up. We're talking about it. I go to Google and I type NOV. November birthstone's the first thing that fills in.
Wow.
Duh?
I could see that. That's a common search.
NOV.
I'm going to try it right now.
I'm going to do mine too. Well, these are all.
It's already listening. Is that what
it's already listening, probably.
NOV. Novak Djokovic is the first thing.
Wow.
Yep, Novak Djokovic.
November
Novel
birthstone
KC,
is the second.
November
really?
2023. Yeah, I just mentioned it. Nova Scotia.
How about April birthstone? APR. First thing.
I've never looked it up.
FEB. February birthdays.
Is your son's birthday in your Google calendar?
I think you guys just had a very common conversation.
No, we had a conversation about something that I don't look up, and then immediately that's the first thing that popped up. Yours was Novak Djokovic. This time was Novak Djokovic.
My first thing. The second thing was November.
Cool. The only thing was about November and birthstones that popped up.
They do. The phones do listen to us, though.
Unbelievable, dude. So then we just started having a lot of fun with what we were. No, I'm joking.
Okay, I'm gonna search something. I'm gonna type the letter W. Oh, wide receiver free agents 2023. Yeah, this thing knows me, man.
Wow.
I mean, that is exactly dang.
Wow. OFF. Offsides, Kadarius Toney. Oh, my God. This is crazy.
Let's talk about something we would never talk about and see if it's listening. We'll do a search. Yeah. We'll do IKEA furniture. Man, I need some furniture. Would love to get some IKEA furniture.
If there's anything I love, it's furniture. IKEA furniture.
I'm not sure that you guys really need that furniture. Oh, my God. IKEA furniture.
It's the fourth thing.
I typed in IKEA, and IKEA came up.
Oh, my God. Look outside. There's an entire IKEA flying right at us. It's a drone. It's a blue and yellow drone.
I also learned that there's an entire store of IKEA that can fly.
Yeah, it's a full. Science is amazing.
What did you learn, Josh, from the weekend?
I learned that Twitter still has something good and worth fighting for.
What?
Because the timeline essentially had a full-on funeral for one of the best tweets of all time. I will read it verbatim so we can appreciate it at least one more time.
Please.
Every time I see an Angels highlight, it's like Mike Trout hit 3 home runs and raised his average to 528, while Shohei Ohtani did something that hasn't been done since Tungsten Armo Doyle of the 1921 Akron Groomsmen, and the Tigers defeated the Angels 8-3. That tweet is no longer relevant with Shohei Ohtani being a Dodger, but that tweet will live on forever.
Yep.
It's a great one.
It's one of the best tweets in the history of Twitter. What did you learn, Mick?
Learn the sky's literally falling at Arrowhead. Everybody okay? And is that I take somebody's?
No, you did not.
It's my favorite.
I don't know. Do we have the audio of that? I should have thought of that.
We do. We have the Chris Jones presser. We could pick that up for you.
It's at the very end. We
it's
also
the very
have
end. It's the last thing that was said because he just decided to bounce.
Yeah.
Saw his opportunity and seized it because talking to the rough and tumble media in Kansas City is the toughest thing ever.
There's also
it's a gigantic piece of ceiling that fell.
Yeah, it's a dangerous thing.
Todd and some others.
The audio that Steven had posted on his Twitter account, because Steven had the video of it as he was there, and then shows Todd and PJ.
Well, that same room was leaking earlier this year.
Yes, the sky's literally falling.
So, yeah, something's going on there. Yeah, let's just listen.
Let's hear it,
yeah.
I feel it. Same thing I said about it. Y'all have a good day.
The timing there is amazing.
Incredible.
Because he right before that, he said, he was asked about the flag. He said, the flag, and he paused. and an act of God then happened. He's like, see, that's the same thing I said about it, and walked off.
Somebody quote tweeted Matt Derek's tweet and said, Kadarius Toney trying to escape through the vents.
It's pretty good. I hate when I have when two people tweet like the same thing, and like one gets a lot more run than the other.
Is this about how awful? I have a different learned. I learned that Awful Announcing took both of our tweets about the sky is falling and included it in a story that introed that section with, a lot of people made the same joke on Twitter X.
No.
And both of us were there making the same joke.
That was too easy, but unavoidable. You have to do it. You had to do that.
Sometimes you got to take the checkdowns.
Yes.
Don't bully me for taking the checkdowns.
Yeah, but mine got like 18 likes. That was it. And what'd yours get, Josh?
I'll go look. It wasn't,
It got
Alex
enough.
Smith trashing
I
Tom
could
Brady.
type the letter R and it would get 19 likes.
Well, that's you, though.
I know.
I mean, come on, man.
Should I try it?
I tweeted a lot, so I'm a volume shooter. You know this.
Yeah, you are. You
299 likes, 21 retweets. It's it was a fine. It was a fine effort.
It's more than 18.
I wasn't on the ground there.
Dylan, what did you learn from the weekend?
So I learned that the new growth and engagement advisor for NASCAR is actually Alvin Kamara, the running back for the Saints. He has been tweeting his love of NASCAR over the last 3 years, and they made him their new growth and engagement advisor. And he pulled up to the game in a pace car. I think it's a Toyota pace car, but it's pretty cool. And he's got a really awesome jacket that I'm trying to find.
That rules.
That's cool.
Okay.
Bernard Pollard got very much into racing during the pandemic. As then he bought the whole simulator, and then he's been all about it since then. All right, the funniest for you, Josh.
I got some audio for this one because the funniest bit of analysis that I've heard in a little bit is Rex Ryan's take on the Kadarius Toney offsides penalty.
This guy right here, line the heck up, all right? And I'm sorry, he should be onside.
Hey, guys. The fact that Rex said it's a toe,
it's a toe I don't like.
What'd you say?
I just said this is a toe I don't like.
He likes toes.
I like, I like toes. I don't like this toe. Hey, come on, line up on frickin' side for crying out loud.
See, now there was no way for us to do a serious show if you're going to go there, Rex. This is not the moment for it.
I apologize.
Hey, all right.
Kadarius Toney. If you turn Rex against feet, you a bad man.
Okay. All right.
Ed.
All right. We have lost the ability to have a serious conversation about the play of the year. So let's spin it back to the
play of the year. How about
play
that?
of the year
huh?
from Greeny.
How about that, huh?
Yeah, look, I mean, if you're
it's not even in the book.
If you're gonna talk about the same thing over and over again, you may as well do it with some flair. So shout out to Rex Ryan.
Well, we should have seen this coming because his toe and knee were offsides.
Got it.
Mick, what was your funniest from the weekend?
His dairy error was offside. My funniest from the weekend. Listen, the Chris Jones Joe Cullen exchange. I laughed at that. It was almost like Joe Cullen said, "Oh, you want to get crazy? I can get crazier than you."
Yeah.
And then Chris is back down. And I think George Kaloftis is laughing through it all. And at the end of the game, you see Cullen and Chris Jones on the field talking and like nothing ever happened. So. In a night full of just kind of surreal happenings out there, I thought that was very, very, very funny. Just slamming the iPad.
I'd like to see Eric Bieniemy on a day when the Commanders don't play, just to walk on the sideline and just start arguing with like Kelsey and some other guys, and just having this blow up, and then they go out there and score
and they win
38 points. That'd be awesome.
Yeah.
The funniest for you, Dylan.
The funniest, I just retweeted it, but Josh thankfully found it for me because I was not watching College Game Day when this happened. But Bill Belichick putting that Navy helmet on set,
it's funny.
I did not see
if you haven't seen it, it's
you haven't seen it?
He couldn't stop talking. He wouldn't shut up, right? He will talk about stuff he wants to talk about. And so his dad coached in Navy forever with Lee Corso. And like he just kept talking, and the announcers would try to Chris Fowler would try to take over, and I think it was Reese Davis. And he would interrupt him and say, "I got one more point to make." And so that's
shut
nice
up, host.
Bill.
Yeah. My funniest from the weekend. Again, this. Oh my god.
It's better than you thought, even, right? I mean, old-timey two-bar face mask.
It's so great. Again, I said none
That's
of mine.
That's a good game, too.
None of mine were sports-related. My funniest from the weekend is, I'm walking through the house, and Juliet's doing something, and she says, ship. And when she said it, she didn't pronounce the P the way that I did. And so I'm like, what did you just say? She goes, ship. It's like a boat. Ship. She goes, it sounds like the word you use when you're mad.
Yes.
That's awesome.
And I said,
it's perfect.
I'm not sure. Slip? What are you talking about? The word that I use when I'm mad. I also say ship when I'm very mad. Not sure.
It's like a boat.
It's like a boat, but it also sounds like the word you use when you're mad. Ship. Thank you. I appreciate it. The best for you, Mick?
I can't wait till she tells you about fudge or something like that. Yeah. The best for me.
That's what I use when I'm mad.
That's it. You mad? Best for me is I know he plays for the Broncos and they got a win yesterday, but Lucas Kroll got his first NFL catch. He is from Mill Valley High School.
Oh, cool.
My wife taught him in 4th grade.
Had a catch?
A neighbor of ours had a catch for 35 yards. Set up a score.
Nice.
And he never got tackled. He was just one of those, like, he's a big old dude. One of those the DB just kind of eventually wrestled him out of bounds. And so on the board, 1 catch, 35 yards in his career.
Nice.
He was with the Saints last year. Came over with Peyton, and Peyton likes him, so that's good. And so hopefully that's a sign of things to come. So well done, Lucas.
Yeah, we have almost similar careers.
Hopefully
both have one catch.
he ends up with 20 catches this year to end the year for the 2nd place Broncos.
That would be great. Yeah, that'd be awesome. The best for you, Dylan?
The best for me, this is quick, 30 seconds here. Bill Walsh gave the speech that we all need and that the Chiefs needed last night.
We say that officials can lose it for you. They did. But that's part of the game. They're inept idiots. But that is part of life, whether you're driving down the street or in the military or working somewhere or making love or whatever the hell it is. There are some things that happen out of your control, and you have to account for them and overcome them. Well, we almost overcame it. We almost overcame it after all the things that went wrong. So you guys got a lot left in you.
That's a positivity I feel like we need right there.
Maybe that's what Andy Reid is saying, is like, you guys, the refs were out to get you tonight, and you still should have gone out there and won that game. That's how good you are. You just have to believe it. My best from the weekend, that's Juliet's first dance recital was this weekend.
Nice.
She killed it. It was awesome. It was fun to see her up there. She had a blast, and she was really good.
Is this like Dance Moms Dance, or is it? Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, it was.
So you're
dance,
into
yep,
that.
She was there, so she
watched that
did
show.
awesome. It was her dance was to Melikaliki Maka.
Oh. Was it a solo? Was it a trio?
That's one of the follow-up questions next segment.
There were 6 of the girls up there. So she was the tallest. It was weird. Josh, best?
Matt Derrick having the referee pool report heard around the world, immediately followed by him doing his post-game show segment with us, live from Santa's sleigh that replaced his usual post-game couch at Arrowhead.
Yeah, that was awesome. All right, more zone next.
What was that?
All right, we continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Srim Petro, the program comes your way after we are done. 6 o'clock tonight, Chiefs Legend Show with Sterling Holmes. Special guest Neil Smith coming your way tonight. And then Titans Dolphins right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB, along with the Packers and Giants, a little NFL Monday Night Football doubleheader.
Is it even a doubleheader where it's played? It's the same time, right?
That's a good point. Yeah, 2 games simultaneous.
Same time.
For some reason.
2 things at once.
2 things at once. Yes, the referees can be inconsistent, and it also can be offside by Kadarius Toney.
Yes.
2 things at
2
once.
things at once.
Mom!
Yes, the refs and the Chiefs offense can both be bad.
The Bills fans are giving themselves a ring after last night's win.
Yeah, hang the banner.
So they are hanging yet another banner. In fact,
They beat the Chiefs a lot.
One of the tools changed it to Allen head instead of Burrow head. So apparently they want to be in the same boat with the Bengals. 0 Super Bowls, so they've got that going for them. Who would you give a ring to there, Josh?
I'm going to avoid that game entirely because Who Gets the Rings brought to you by Ruback Fine Jewelry. Once you've been to Ruback one time, you'll be a customer for life. Make sure to check out their new location in downtown Overland Park, which is open now. You can call or text Hal today about scheduling your appointment at 913-649-8811 or visit their website at ruback.co. Here's who might be getting a ring sometime in the next 10 years and really got just all the jewelry you could ask for. Shohei Ohtani gets the ring. 10 years, $700 million, and maybe most importantly, doesn't even have to move. Got out of the Angels of Anaheim, stays in L.A., getting $700 million.
Anaheim and L.A., they're close.
Well, I don't know where they actually.
Well, it is the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim.
That's what I'm saying. So
What's
the Los Angeles Dodgers of
L.A.,
New York,
probably some
California.
I don't know, other than zip codes or everything.
Los
I bet he
Angeles
could afford to
Dodgers.
buy a second spot now too if he wanted. I mean, he could buy a spot on every block of Los Angeles at this point.
$700 million guaranteed. Is that right?
That's right.
10 years.
Largest
More than
contract
the
in
other
American
3
sports history.
leagues' highest contracts guaranteed combined.
Wow.
I think they said 23 of the 30 owners purchased their team for less than $700 million. Which is great. But a lot of it is deferred, though.
Yeah.
So
Doing him a favor, too. What a guy.
they got that going for him, which is nice.
Those pesky
you think you'd let
Dodgers.
me hold a couple $100 for him?
$600 million is going to be gone. Taxes, California.
Easy.